Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
Yo, 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 what's up, what's good? What's happening? October 18, 2020 version of the Boxing Source radio show. I'm your host, James Bell, the leader of the Boxing Source on social media. You can catch us through Facebook. You have a Facebook page, right? All right, cool. You also follow us on Instagram through the Boxing Source. We're also on Twitter at Boxing Source 2. We also have a YouTube page. We are simulcast on YouTube right now. And you also have the website, theboxingsource.net. Number to dial to join in on the Boxing Talk is 347-237-5539, 347-237-5539. Or you could, join in the talk through YouTube. And oh man, this is one of these days that I know that a good number of people have been waiting for. This is the culmination of months and months of anticipation, predictions, hypotheses, theories, conspiracies, whatever you want to call it. But it's now come and gone. And we now have a new unified lightweight champion, and his name is Teofimo Lopez. The takeover is here. That is right. The takeover is here. Teofimo Lopez did get the unanimous decision win over Vasyl Lomachenko to become the new WBO, the new WBA, the new WBC franchise champion while holding the IBF championship. And this is the very first defense of his IBF title that he won in December at Madison Square Garden with that second round TKO of Richard Commey. And it was something where this is where he basically went out there to prove that he was a better overall fighter than Vasyl Lomachenko. I'm going to most likely revisit this later on down the line. But, he kind of like brought up how, so many people were, not necessarily really siding with him. That, there were, a few people within the boxing circles that leaned towards Vasyl Lomachenko to get the win. Of course, he had the notoriety, the amateur record being brought up so many times, 396 wins and 1 loss. The fighter to get world titles in 3 weight divisions, quicker than any, male professional fighter. Shout out to the GOAT. And that, he was able to unify the titles in the lightweight division within what I would say 4 fights. Within his first 4 fights or so, right? Um, and like I said, Teofimo Lopez was going in there like 14-0, whatnot, and he, had just won the IBF title. And the thing about it is that, going into the fight before the Richard Comey fight, there were, people that had some doubts as to where Teofimo Lopez's momentum was, because he had the string of, consecutive KO victories, consecutive highlight reel KO victories. And then he goes up against Masayuki Nakatani in July of last year, and got through a unanimous decision win. And people said, "Oh, he struggled in that particular fight. That was a tough fight. Might have to see if you go and check that fight out, because if you look at the scorecards, he had one scorecard with 11 rounds to 1 and 2 scorecards of 10 rounds to 2 in that particular fight. People felt like he was struggling. That's very weird. Okay. All right. Then he goes, back to, Madison Square Garden. He's had, a few fights in there. And then he has that highlight reel knockout of Richard Comey, or highlight reel stoppage. He, knocked him down with a right hand, and then blitzed him, to stop it in round 2. And then he gets a fight with Vasyl Lomachenko. And like I was saying, Vasyl Lomachenko had all those things about, he can do this, he can do that. We'll go into it, in a little, in more detail later on down the line, because, if you've seen how the public, or the boxing, pretty much the boxing public, view Vasyl Lomachenko, and how, yes, some members of the media and some outlets kind of view Lomachenko as this super guy, not just pound for pound, one of the top guys, but they almost built him like he was untouchable. Okay, so that set the stage for the week leading into this fight. They were building it up and building it up. And you kind of go into the whole thing with the press conference before the fight. And, they were asking questions about, Lomachenko and him, talking about him, making history and that type of thing. And, how if he wins, he'll be this quote unquote undisputed lightweight champion, and that he wanted to be, first 4-belt world champion in the lightweight division and all this type of stuff. And that it kind of seemed like, and I kind of feel what Teofimo Lopez was saying after the fight, that, or what was going on in reference to that, how that was kind of how the stage was setting at, so you kind of see that and then you go into right before the fight. I know that, from a betting perspective, at least early that I saw, the early lines were for Lomachenko. I think it was the opening lines as far as the odds of Teofimo Lopez winning was 3-1 and 5-1, for either KO win and a or a decision win. And the day of the fight, the odds were for Lopez to win by KO was 11-2, and Lopez decision 11-1. The largest odds, with the exception of the draw. So there was a heavy, favoritism towards Vasyl in this particular fight. But we've seen what happened. So I will get with into it in depth, but I wanted to bring in one caller to join in on this particular podcast from the 205 area code. So I'm going to get him in, and he is on live on the Boxing Source Radio Show. What's going on? Yeah, what's going on, Mike?
Not too much. Have you really got into the fight for real?
Nah. This was leading into the day of and right before the fight started, because I was talking about the odds and how far up Lomachenko was on in the odds, and I saw they had Lomachenko for KO, the odds were 11-5 for Lomachenko KO or stoppage, and for Lomachenko decision it was -115. So there was so much money on Lomachenko winning by decision in this particular fight. When you have a -115 odds, that is either it's a lot of people that were picking it, or there was a lot of money behind it. So that's kind of how it was before the fight. And then, we get into this thing and we see that Teofimo Lopez approached this fight and did it where I guess people didn't expect it, even though he said that he was going to say, look, I ain't no slouch out there in the ring. It ain't like I'm coming in there to knock everybody out. I got skills too. That's what he was saying in the pre-fight press conference. And he just set the pace from round one, threw the jab very, effectively, timed it well, measured the range against, Vasyl Lomachenko. And then at times when Vasyl Lomachenko had his hands up for the jab, he just went down to the body because the body was open. So he just said one with the left and then two with the right to the body. And he was doing that from, the first round and the second round, and it just kept going. And, Vasyl Lomachenko was just up there, moving his body around a little bit, not really moving his feet, but moving his body a little bit, trying to give Teofimo Lopez different looks. But Teofimo Lopez was just focused, had his eyes where his opponent was, measured him, timed him, bim, jab. He was very consistent with it for the first 6-7 rounds. And so, he built up a big lead with that first half of the fight, and going into the seventh, there was a little bit of action from Vasyl Lomachenko near the end of the seventh, and then he started to pick it up in the eighth round, started to be aggressive, started to come in with the jab, and he was going with the jab, but there were times when Teofimo Lopez was ready for it, counter with the right hand and right uppercut, and even though Vasyl Lomachenko was, picking up the pace, it wasn't like he was taking over the momentum of the particular fight. Teofimo Lopez was still calm, still cool, still relaxed, still knew what was in front of him, and didn't get it to the point where Vasyl Lomachenko had enough momentum to take over in the fight. And so by the end of that particular fight in the 12th round, you just saw Teofimo Lopez just say, you know what? I'm not sure if I have it. I've done very well, but I'm not sure if I have it. So I'm just going to take this last round. And that's what he did. He took that last round. He scrapped with Vasyl Lomachenko. You had that, of course, the clash of heads that happened at the 20-second mark that caused the cut, but wasn't enough to really affect the fight. Got to the end, and unanimous decision win for Teofimo Lopez, man. So, hey, what did you think about it before I go in depth about, what happened over the course of the fight?
So I think that Lopez did exactly what I thought he had to do in order to make sure that he had any possibility of having success. I also feel that Lomachenko probably gave him too much respect for too long. He gave him way too much respect for the first 6-7 rounds. And, just looking at the fight from how you said, when I first saw the first round and I saw that Lomachenko was kind of being a big conservative, and then Teofimo Lopez just, kept a real steady pace, jabbing. I'm like, okay, cool. Teofimo Lopez, as long as he does this for the whole fight, he ain't got to throw much, he ain't got to do much. But if he does this, he's going to bag a bunch of rounds.
Yeah.
So round one, as you said, you're like, okay, cool. He bagged that round with the jab. Round two went wrong, and you're like, oh shit, he bagged that round with the jab. Round three came along, I think that was the more interesting round, but nevertheless, he still did more. I think Lomachenko landed a couple good punches at the end of the round, and I honestly thought that they would, give Lomachenko most of the rounds that it had any semblance of being close. So I was like, yeah, I wasn't really scoring the fight, but I'm just thinking like, yeah, they probably gonna get at Lomachenko just because he landed, two big punches at the end of the round. It was very similar to Tim Bradley versus Manny Pacquiao, where Tim Bradley was jabbing, throwing body shots, throwing everything in the whole first 2 minutes and the last 30 seconds. So Manny Pacquiao came and landed 1 or 2, 3 good shots. And so that's what happened in that third round. I feel like fourth round came, he still controlled it with the jab. And I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, if Lomachenko continues to do this, he's really going to have to end up stopping this guy. Because it's the same thing that happened with Deontay Wilder. With Deontay Wilder in, the second Luis Ortiz fight, and even in the Tyson Fury fight, where he literally, kind of had to come from behind because let me just say the Luis Ortiz fight, because he had to come from behind because he just conceding rounds. He's not trying to make the rounds competitive. He's literally conceding rounds, thinking that I'll get him later, and that is probably the worst plan that you could have had. Like, I get it. You want to stay away from his power in terms of Lomachenko and take him to the deep waters and drown him, which one could say, almost happened, almost in terms of, like, you saw the momentum changing, and you saw in the middle rounds where Lomachenko was literally landing big shots, and he would get in on the inside of Lopez, and he would literally hit Lopez with 2 or 3 big shots. Now, he buzzed him a couple times, but he didn't hurt him to where he was, too far gone. But my thing was, if he continued doing that, then maybe you wouldn't hurt him enough to get a knockdown or do something like major.
Right.
But toward those middle rounds, his footwork was such so that Lopez would have his arms down, and before his arms would get up, he would get hit with 2 or 3 big punches, like pow, 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 and he would just be like frozen. And so I'm thinking to myself, like, dude, the last 6 rounds, you have been winning this fight on the edge of your jab. And, he had to get past that minefield and have to think about the big bomb at the end of that minefield, and you were winning these rounds. Like, I get it. Lomo cranked it up, but what also changed was Teofimo stopped moving with his feet, stopped jabbing, stopped trying to throw with the jab, stopped trying to use his arm to arm fight and all that. He just literally, stopped jabbing, and that's when he kept getting hit with all the big punches. Luckily, he was a bigger guy. He was able to absorb those punches. Yeah. But it those wide scores, I thought the fight was a lot closer than all of the scores said. Like, I think the widest that I would have seen the score get was maybe the lowest score that they scored. Because other than that, it was close enough rounds to where, depending on what you like, you could say it could go either way. Now, I didn't score the fight, so this is just me just basing off of my feelings about the fight. But yeah, I knew going into that last round that was going to be a pivotal round. Obviously, it didn't matter in terms of the real scorecard, but I felt like in my heart, Teofimo will need this round. He came out with the champ he was, and he was like, I'm going for it. and he was throwing punches, and then the ref stops the damn fight with 20 seconds to go. Like, I get it, like you want to check on him, but I feel like he was winning the interaction, and he had hurt, what's his name, or something, or he had him backing up, or something happened to him.
Yeah. Yep.
And the rest of the fight, he was really winning the action. I got his head, but he was doing so well, and it just was like step. And so, they paused it and let him finish it, and he put the last little step on it. But I think the right call happened. I think that it's going to be marred because you have those wider scores, but the right call happened in terms of the worst case that could have happened is could have been a tie. Other than that, it would be Teofimo or tie. That's the worst case that I felt like could have happened. Because that game plan, I just can't believe that they didn't think, and I know what's his name is like really mad at himself because the success he had when he did let his hands go, he did jab, when he was, willing to
engage,
face a little adversity, and willing to engage. He had so much success, and it seemed very easy at times. When the momentum changed, it was just like, oh wow, is this boy about to fold? And so literally, all he was doing was just eating punches. He was just taking punches.
Right.
And so while he won, I must also say this: the guy is very beatable. If you are another fast, quick twitch fighter, and you throw a shot, he needs to work on his defense because if he fights a bigger guy and they literally throw a shot, he just eating shots, not putting his arms up, not blocking anything, and he just taking clean shots, that will not happen to him. He will not be able to just absorb the shots because Lomachenko is a smaller guy. Like, and even then, I was just questioning if he could have continued absorbing just clean shots like that. He was taking the shot way too clean. He won the fight. Can't take nothing away from him, but he's beatable. And, he's beatable. That's all I'm saying. I'm not going to take away from his win. I'm not going to take away from anything. I'm glad that they had the game plan of starting from poses, of using the jab.
Right.
This is a lesson to all these young fighters. If you have the attributes like size, the reach advantage, and you have semi-educated jab, you see the night and day in this whole fight of how much respect he commanded because of that jab. When he was just trying to throw hooks and stuff, he was getting tagged in them later round. When he threw that jab, it was like, what's his name was like, what can I do with this? Like, I know he hadn't thrown the right hand yet, but like, what can I do with this? Am I gonna risk it in the right hand? And you could just tell he had been thinking so much, and as a result, he was just bagging around. And once they engaged, he didn't throw many punches in the first 6 rounds. That is a terrible game plan. Like, how could you come and not throw body shots, not do anything? One thing that I will commend Teofimo Lopez for doing, when he couldn't beat what's his name, exactly as you said, he was throwing body shots. That was a great game plan. Jabbing and throwing body shots. That is the most simple lesson any young boxer or older boxer can learn. That's how you win the fight. Jab, keep it simple, and throw body shots when you look close. You can't land with a head shot, throw the body shot. Because that slowed what's his name down too.
Sure did.
It slowed it down as well. It's a good fight. I'm glad that it actually heated up. I can't believe that's the game plan that they had to start after round 6. Not round 5. They started after round 6.
Yeah.
Meaning that he had to live with all the rest of the round. If he did or did not lose one of them rounds. Like that's a crazy game plan.
Yeah, now I'll go through the scorecards pretty much by a series of rounds and things like that to kind of like give Monday morning quarterback style analysis about what Lomachenko did, which you kind of like touched on. I was going to see if I could bring in 813, but it looks like there was some echo, so I'm gonna start with 202. Unfortunately. 202, you're on the Boxing Source radio show, man. What's good?
What's up, fellas? This is Mr. Give Me My Credit, Mr. Unbiased. What's up, fellas?
Mr. Give Me My Credit. Oh, man. Hey, also, Mr. Winning Ticket. because maybe, like I was saying before you came on, the odds were seriously towards Lomachenko, and going into that front, while the fight was, before the fight was happening, and while they had the undercards, like they were talking about the odds in Vegas, and they were saying like, a lot of the big money bets were going towards Lomachenko, but all the small money was headed towards Lopez, and so that was why the odds, at least I was leading into the fight, were so heavily towards Lomachenko. In that anyone that kind of like put something on Lopez, if he got the win, they would pretty much cash in if they put in a little bit of coin. But like I said, Lopez fought the best fight that he could possibly do, particularly in the first half of the fight. And hey, he was able to say, you know what, you can't hurt me. So if you're going to be aggressive, I'm going to have something for you. But like Mike said, he definitely has to work on his defense. What did you think about this fight in general, Wayne?
So I guess I'm going to the expectations of the fight. We had talked, me and you had talked, Marrero, we talked as well, and we were just trying to get kind of our analysis on the fight. And you had talked about the odds. And at that time, I didn't have a strong opinion about the fight. Normally, I have a real strong opinion about fights. This particular fight, I didn't even pick. So what I did was, the day of, I guess yesterday, I'm real keen on when world-class fighters at a big stage fight each other. Mm-hmm. They're not really usually knockouts. When you got two elite fighters, they're not generally knockouts. Yeah. So I personally didn't think Loma had the power to stop Teofimo. Right. And I wasn't totally sure Teofimo was going to KO Loma. So what I did was I kind of hedged my bet. So I did take Lopez to win, but I also took Lomachenko by decision. Oh. So I didn't necessarily get a full pay. I got some money back. The payout could have been bigger, but I kind of hedged it off with Loma by decision. I didn't think Loma was going to stop Teofimo, and I just wasn't sure who was going to win. So I said, let me eliminate the KO situation from Loma, because I don't think that happened. And then every other outcome, I got paid off. So if anything, if Teofimo won by KO, he won by decision, or if Loma won by decision, I win money. So that's how I came off. Yeah, so based on the prices, so I was able to move the prices in that way. But to the fight though, I gotta be honest. I fought at 7-5 for Lopez. That 12th round for me was critical. For me, he took the first 6 rounds. I thought Loma took 7 through 11, and Lopez closed strong. And I think that was the difference for me. I can't see how anybody would score closer to Loma. I can't see a draw. I can't see Loma winning. Right. I can't see a 10-2, 9-3. I thought it was an 8-4, 7-5 kind of clean fight. Mm-hmm. The 6, going through the first couple of rounds, I was thinking to myself, because we were talking about numbers, people were talking about numbers and stuff on Twitter. I was wondering how that first 6 rounds was very uneventful. I wonder how many people that late at night stick around to watch the end of the fight. I was pretty underwhelmed. In general, I thought it was a good performance by Teo. He did things that a lot of people didn't think he could outbox Loma. His size had something to do with it. His way to be able to out-angle Lomachenko was key in this fight. And I think Lomachenko didn't think Teofimo had the boxing brain that he did.
Yeah, and my thing was, I think a lot of people
gave him too much respect. Sorry, Jay. You think what's that gave him too much respect?
No, I heard the end of your call. You were absolutely right. There's no game plan worth waiting around 6 rounds. But I think part of it was, I don't think he was trying to go 6 rounds, wait 6 rounds. I think he was so caught off by how prepared Teofimo was in terms of the angles, in terms of his defense, in terms of his body punches. And I think, his size, I think he just underestimated Teofimo as a boxer. And I think he had to think more than what he thought he would have had to, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I feel you. All right, I'm going to try A13. He should be on with us. He just said there's a lot of feedback, man. A13.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
What up, Terrell, man? What's good with you?
Hey, all the things that you guys already said about it to this point. So I think the biggest thing that surprised me from this fight was the fact that Lomachenko came out as a softball, and I recognized that. I said, you know what? The first one, when you come out as a softball, that means that it's easy to get your feet entangled up with your opponent. And then other than that, is the fact that as a softball, he was able to effectively keep that distance away from Teofimo Lopez. And that was an immediate nod to say, I know this dude is strong, powerful, and it, coming to a fight when your face off and stuff like that, judging your opponent, you generally know how strong your opponent is at that point. And Loma's team probably say, you know what, let's do this, let's do a different game plan. Let's not give him a traditional style to where he come in and throw that straight right hand or that left hook, things like that. So that just right there was definitely key for Loma to stay away from that power, which is what he did. And that's kind of what we talked about the other day. When you have a fighter, how do you take away his best weapon? And arguably, Teofimo's best weapon is either the left hook or the straight right. So he took away the straight right with the distance. But the thing about it, like you guys said, it's like he just basically waited to start his attack. I mean, Loma had great footwork, but other than that, he just stayed. He gets his distance from Teo. But my greatest attribute for Teo that he showed us was his mental prowess, not the rush in throwing wild punches and things like that. And admittedly, Loma said, I'm going to take him into deep waters. And that's literally his strategy. Like I said, he gave away at least the first 6 rounds with relative ease. Teo capitalized with his movement, his mental prowess to stay in there, not to get wild, not to go after him and get out of position, things like that. We know that. But early that once Loma started to actually bring the fight, he was effective. He was definitely very effective. Like you guys said, round 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, that's more likely that those were given to Loma, and rightfully so. Even though even 1 or 2 of those could have been a swing round. And I really admired the fact that on the last round, 12th round, Teofimo recognized what was going on within that moment and said, fight back. I don't know like you guys, but that last round, I was like, oh man, he's going to go down, going to punch or something like that. Because Loma was definitely connected on him with some straight punches, repeated punches, things like that. But to his credit, Teo stood in the pocket and fought back and fought the champion back. Right, so that was one of the greatest moments of the fight to me. Right, but it was a great fight. I mean, that's it. Like you guys said, typically when you have a champion fighting other champions, you really don't see a knockout like that. Unless there's like some kind of exceptional power or punch somebody didn't see. We know that. But this is a great tactical match, and that's a great aspect of what I enjoy about the fight. So there you go.
Yeah. Hey, one thing before I go in response to that world rank, I'm gonna hit you up on Twitter after this because I had something that really went down before the fight that just had me like, oh, I need to run with this. But I'll hit you later on that. But like Terrell said, it looked like Vasyl Lomachenko was just waiting too long. And I think there were 2 factors to that. One was, of course, the timing of Teofimo Lopez, throwing the jab and then following with the right to the body. But also, his overall power, like I was saying, it looked like Vasyl Lomachenko was respecting his power early on. And I think there was body shots were a factor into that because usually you would see Vasyl Lomachenko be an aggressor, be, on the front foot a lot. from, after the first, 1 or 2 rounds of the fight. He would be, the aggressor. And he wasn't for the 3rd round, the 4th round. 5th round, he tried a couple of things, but it was like at the tail ends of the rounds. And then, 6th round, there was still a little bit more of, Teofimo Lopez doing his thing. And then you started to see Vasyl Lomachenko be aggressive. And I think that, was commented during the fight, like Tim Bradley was saying, hey, if Vasyl Lomachenko is going to be successful, he's going to have to take the fight to Teofimo Lopez and close the distance. And he started to do that. And when he was doing that, whether it was the 7th round or the 8th round, when Vasyl Lomachenko came up close, Teofimo Lopez knew that, okay, he's trying to do all this stuff while we're in close quarters, either mid-range or in the clinch. So what I'm going to do is, anytime it comes close, I'm going to go in, I'm going to break up, and I'm going to push off. And I'm going to establish the distance once again. So it made, Vasyl Lomachenko reset. And I think that was one key part of that fight that, kept the pace or the momentum more towards Teofimo Lopez and not switch all the way over to Vasyl Lomachenko. And the other thing is you kind of saw the counters that Teofimo Lopez was throwing. He was throwing like a right uppercut. The right uppercut got in a few times to Vasyl Lomachenko. I didn't think that Lomachenko expected that. And the other thing to me was, and this was going into the fight, from the very first fight that Vasyl Lomachenko had at lightweight, I didn't think that he had the fluid movement that he had in the lower weight divisions, and that he was getting hit because he wasn't moving, he wasn't shifting side to side like he was doing in the other divisions. Like when he was at super featherweight, he was doing that pretty fluidly. When he was at featherweight, he was doing that fluidly, but you didn't see it that much in the lightweight division. So I kind of felt like, okay, now you're facing someone that, is young, very young, has power and has range. And if he's able to control that range and try to, limit you from moving side to side like you usually do, how are you going to adjust to that? And it took him, a long time for him to actually make that adjustment to either just say, you know what, I can't go this way. He's trying to close the distance, or at least, close me off so I can't move side to side and then end up cutting off the ring against me. So how am I going to get out of that? I'm going to have to come forward. I'm going to have to jab. I'm going to have to get in on the inside. And then I'm going to have to roughhouse, which I kind of felt like that was very interesting that Vasyl Lomachenko had to resort to that when you had the fight against Orlando Salido and he didn't adjust to Salido during the roughhouse. And then you had that Rigo fight where he was complaining about what Rigo was doing. So for Vasyl Lomachenko to kind of resort to that kind of, was a pointed part of this particular fight. But you really didn't see any point where I felt like Lomachenko seriously hurt Teofimo Lopez. He might have had some times where he had a little bit of success, but not enough to, like I said, completely swing it in his favor. And it was just basically was said, an 8-4. I felt it was an 8-4 win for Teofimo Lopez in this fight. And so, with that, he kind of proved that he could hang in there to a fighter of that level. But yes, he does have a lot to work on in this instance. Anyone else want to add something?
Yeah, I don't think that Teofimo Lopez, I saw him do it a couple times where Lomachenko was on the inside, he pushed him away to reset. But I think he was more so a deer in the headlights when Lomachenko did come on and he got hit. He was a deer in the headlights, arms down, boom, 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 get hit by three or four punches. And that happened more than him
pushing off.
And finally pushing off, yeah. I had one more point I was going to say too. But I think Lomachenko hurt him or buzzed him. And this is when he started coming on too. When he did like a couple jabs and then he headbutted him. He headbutted Lopez. And that kind of like stopped a lot of the momentum. And that's when he literally started throwing his hands because he hit it. And then Lopez was like, what the fuck, what you doing? Or even when he was like holding him and then hitting his head or whatever.
Exactly.
He had to do something because at that point they had set the cadence for the fight. And so Lomachenko literally had to do something to change, the mindset of the fight. And so that like roughhousing, holding him and hitting and stuff was what changed it for him. And that changed, Teofimo from just straight you and jab and doing all this other stuff. He had to do something to like just change the whole momentum of the fight.
Yeah. And that thing is, as far as like, while they were in the clinch, that's what I was saying. Like you kind of like saw Vasyl Lomachenko like sneak a couple of left hands in and then go over the top with the right. And, Teofimo wasn't really, like expecting that when they were fighting in close quarters. And I think that was, part of what got Vasyl Lomachenko back in the fight because he really didn't have much offense at all up until that point in the 7th and 8th rounds. And going into, what you were saying in reference to defense, like you saw like Teofimo Lopez, he was like either approaching him, but if he wasn't throwing a jab, he didn't really have his hands high enough to like have any type of defense for Vasyl Lomachenko's right jab. So Lomachenko was scoring with that right jab a whole lot in the second half of the fight. And, that's what got him back into it. It was just that he couldn't get anything else in there to give him more momentum and to, kind of like seriously affect Teofimo Lopez in the tail end of the fight.
Do we take any consideration for Teofimo getting tired later in the fight? Because I did see that. There was a point in the 7th round where it looked like he was fading. And Terrell made a good point. That 12th round span that he made, a lot of champions and a lot of fighters coming up should take note of that. Because whether the fight was up for grabs or not, didn't really matter. He had the intent of this was the 12th round, and I was going to make a statement. And a lot of fighters coast in these championship rounds, and you see them. Sometimes it costs them a fight. And I think him making that stand shows that he had a great boxing mind. Like, to be able to just sit there and say that he outboxed Loma, which he did for most part of the fight. And to be able to have that stand to do that, and also to have that wherewithal late in the fight, when it looked like, to me, he looked like he was fading a little bit. Mm-hmm. To have that stand and say, hey, this is my time, and I'm not going to let it pass me by. I think he should get a lot of credit for that 12th round stand.
Yeah, and the thing with what he was basically saying is I feel like even with the comeback of sorts from Lomachenko, he kind of like realized like, okay, I see him trying to do some sort of plan. And, even though Teofimo Lopez was fading a bit, he was like, you know what, you're not going to really, affect me to the point where I'm just going to, basically crumble in this sense. I'm going to make sure that you feel that I'm coming right back at you. So, while Vasyl Lomachenko was, landing those shots with, Teofimo Lopez having his, hands down, Teofimo Lopez is like, okay, I can still touch you to the body. I can still sneak in an uppercut. I can still, come in with a 3-punch combination while I'm the one that has the range against you, So I feel like that was a key point over the course of the fight that, while, Vasyl Lomachenko was picking up the offense, it wasn't to the point where, Vasyl Lomachenko, had the thing where he would take over. And I kind of like feel like people thought that was going to happen later in the fight. It kind of like seemed like people were like, man, Teofimo Lopez is doing very well, but we're gonna see Vasyl Lomachenko take over. We're gonna see Vasyl Lomachenko take over, get the upper hand in this fight. And it never really happened to the point where Vasyl Lomachenko had a very big advantage to get, I guess I would say the upper hand in this particular fight. Just had a thing here. I don't know, Terrell, if you got this thing on speaker or something. It's just a lot of echo coming back.
Yeah, man. So another thing too that to consider with that difference that Loma had, and let me say this. When you talk about how Loma has fought different opponents in the past, that was critical. Obviously, you can't fight each opponent the same exact way, but when you look at when Loma fought Linares, Gonzo, people like that, he was generally right there in their face. Like I said, with him playing softball, that definitely gave him the ability to keep that distance and give more respect to Teal's power in that regard.
Now,
and another main thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just lastly, I know we'll get to it, but in regards to, I don't know if any guys saw this debate by Devin Haney on Fight Hype in regards to his reaction to the win and things like that. But we'll get to that later. But aside from that, just once again, I wish that Tino would have used that uppercut, which was definitely there when Loma was against the ropes. Every time Loma went to defend himself, he had a habit of crouching forward, and that uppercut was definitely there numerous times for Tio to be able to deliver a power shot. He got some uppercuts in, but I definitely wish that would have been a punch he would have used more in that regard.
Right. Now, before I add in this other caller that has been waiting for this moment for all his life, hold on. You talked about Vasyl Lomachenko's run at lightweight, and I felt like that particular instance was where I just felt like it was a different type of run at lightweight than he had, in super featherweight and, at featherweight. Of course, you know about the fights with Gary Russell Jr. and, among other guys out there, but you also had the situations at super featherweight with the likes of Nicholas Walters too. But at lightweight, with the exception of Jorge Linares, he fought guys that were, either having their first defense of a world title, like the thing with Pedraza, like that was his first defense of the WBO title that he won. And then you had the thing with Luke Campbell. While, he had been unsuccessful in other world title affairs, particularly against Jorge Linares, he's up there getting his shot against Vasyl Lomachenko. And I just didn't feel like those guys were, at the particular point where they could be, up for the challenge at that time against Vasyl Lomachenko. But even then, you kind of seen the issues that Vasyl Lomachenko had at 135 pounds. And it was just something to where when he faced Teofimo Lopez, it was all going to catch up to him. And I will get into that a little bit more. But I have to bring in this other caller. Like I said, he has been waiting for this moment for all his life. He's New York through and through. We all know him as the president of the Deontay Wilder fan club, the president of the Clarissa Shields fan club, and quite possibly the president of the Teofimo Lopez fan club, Mr. Matthew Brown. What's going on? Oh God. just for those that are listening right now, this is probably one of the few times that I would ever allow Jay-Z to be on it. Oh!
Nobody believed in him. He was almost a 5-1 underdog. He
Opening
was disrespected by the masses. There were people that were claiming, oh, you didn't want to take this fight. You didn't want to take this fight. Why is he arguing over money? Just take the fight.
Oh,
little did we know that Top Rank was trying to get him one of them slave contracts on the side. He exposed him last night. He told Law last night.
Ooh.
He put on the performance of his life and battered Vasyl Lomachenko, who was only saved by Russell Mora and a headbutt. Because if Russell Mora did not pause the action, oh, he was going to get sent to hell. But we'll settle for the clear decision victory.
Yes.
And now it's time to move on. No rematch. If you couldn't give Gary Russell Jr. a rematch, if you ain't got no rematch yourself.
He did right out big. No, I'm just kidding. Listen, man. Oh boy. As far as like that last part of the 12th round, you saw Vasyl Lomachenko get hit with that left hook and was in a little bit. You was in some trouble, in that 12th round. And I know that if it wasn't for the referee stepping in and then them checking for that headbutt that Vasyl Lomachenko could have been sent straight to hell. But I'm kind of glad that it went 12 rounds. And I'm sure that you're pretty glad too.
Me too. I was smart enough to take Teofimo Lopez 4 points at 9-1, and I was able to win coins.
Yeah.
So thank you, Lomachenko. Thank you, Anatoly Lomachenko and Vasyl Lomachenko, for coming up with the absolute worst game plan I've ever seen.
So yay. Let's just put our hands up and just put our hands up and then just wait. He's gonna tire. After the 4th round, he's gonna tire. Oh wait, after the 5th round, he's gonna tire. Oh wait, after the 6th round, he's gonna tire. Oh wait. Yo.
Oh, that was great. Listen, this fight to me is a replay of Errol Spence versus Mikey Garcia. It's a replay of Floyd Mayweather versus Juan Manuel Marquez. It's a replay of Adrian Broner against Manny Pacquiao. Adrian Broner against Mikey Garcia. This guy just will not let his hands go.
Yep.
And we know why. No one wants to say it. He didn't want to get knocked out. That's all it was.
Yeah, he didn't want to get knocked out. He didn't want to get knocked out. He didn't want to get spectacularly knocked out. He didn't want that type of highlight to be put on his record. So he, just was able to get through. All right. He was able to just get through those rounds. And like I said, he picked up the offense after the 7th, 8th round. But Teofimo was, calm and cool enough. He was ready for it. He threw counters at the right times. He didn't give Vasyl Lomachenko enough momentum to really turn it up a notch that I think people were supposedly expecting that we're leaning towards the side of Lomachenko. So I thought that was big there for Teofimo Lopez. But yeah, the end of that fight, after the fight in that post-fight press conference, at the end, Teofimo Lopez, basically went off there, kind of like, after one of the guys from ESPN kind of like asked a question in reference to like sponsorships. Like he kind of like he was saying something that like after the fight with Richard Coleman, where he won his first title. And he was like saying that, you kind of like felt like you were going to get sponsorships and things like that, and nothing came. And so Teofimo Lopez kind of like answered that. He was like, yeah, it just doesn't seem like I get the respect there. And why is that? I don't understand that. Why is that? And then after the last question, he just went off, man. He just went off, man. He's like, give me my damn respect, man. Give me my damn respect. Go ahead, Mike Grady. I'm going to see if I can pull that up.
So if they fought again, let's speak in fantasy world. If they fought again, what did y'all think would happen and how would it happen? Why and how would it happen?
Wait, that's Mike Grady?
Yes, it is.
Did you watch the fight?
Of course I watched the fight.
Oh,
When I put up my post, Max, you never look at them anyway. I come on your show and I talk on boxing updates and I show you love, but you never look at my post. That's why I stopped posting that, because you wasn't looking up.
Show that man love.
Thank you.
It's a Facebook algorithm, man. I keep telling people that.
Oh, okay.
Facebook
I'm a small face. Just tell me. Small face.
No. Facebook doing some funny stuff. Not me.
Yeah, they do.
So if they fought again,
Yeah,
what you think? Yep. Of course, I watched the fight, and I thought that the right outcome happened. I think that the fight was a lot closer than the scores said that they were. Hey,
we got
119, whatever.
Hey, Matt. Hey, listen, that'll turn into Teofimo Lopez Sr. here in a minute. Hey, you keep talking about that's cool.
Excellent scorecard. Okay. Let's do this. Okay. What am I telling you about scoring? Because we had this same argument when you try to say Canelo gets this, Canelo gets that. What did I tell you about scoring? When you have a close round, if you score the ball for one guy, you can end up with a wide score. Now, here's what we saw in the fight. Rounds 1 to 7, no doubt about it, Teofimo Lopez swept the first 7 rounds. The first round on my scorecard that I believe was a close round was round number 8. That round could have went either way. So I gave the round to Lomachenko, but I put a little star next to it because it could have went either way. The 9th round could have went either way. I put a little star next to it, but I gave it to Lopez. 10th round could have went either way. I put a little star next to it, gave it to Lomachenko. The 11th round, Lomachenko's round. He won that round, no doubt about it. That's the only round that he won clearly. Round 12, another clear Lopez round. So if you come on my count, you had 8 rounds that Lopez won clearly, 1 that Lomachenko won clearly, and 3 that could have went either way. That's 8 rounds. If you want to give the 3 swing rounds to Lomachenko, you get 116, 112. If you give 2 swing rounds to Lomachenko, you get 117, 111. If you give all 3 to Teofimo Lopez, you get 119, 109. The scorecard was perfect. Anyone that had it closer than 8 rounds to 4 is a damn lie, and they were looking to steal the fight from that kid, or they were looking to have Lomachenko save state in the eyes of the public. Why? Because they're feeding him the corn Stevenson next. That's why. They just want to stop what you're saying.
Hey, bro, you just said 7 through 11 was close. Well, 7 through 10 was close round, right? You said 8 through 10. You said 8 through 10 was close. Okay, 8 through 10 was close.
Yep.
Okay, so I gave Loma 8, 9, 10, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11.
Now, how did you give him 7? You want to know why I think you gave him 7? I think you gave him round number 7 because in round 6, he only threw 13 punches. In round 7, he threw 22 punches. So people gave him extra credit for being just a little bit more busy. But guess what? He didn't land shit. And Teofimo more than doubled his punch count in round number 7. So how do you think that round for Lomachenko?
How many punches did he land compared to Lomachenko on round 7?
11-5.
11-5.
Yes, sir. Now, how
You know that off the top of your head, Matt?
Huh?
You know that off the top of your head?
Damn right I do. Listen, I've been waiting for this fight for 2 years.
You were waiting so long on that because you picked Rigo.
I've already watched the fight 10 times. Okay? I went back, looked at the scorecard, looked at my scorecard. I was like, wow, the game decided exactly how I had it. They threw up the first 7 to Teofimo. They were split on rounds 8 to 10. They gave 11 to Lomachenko, and everybody gave number 12 to Teofimo. There was no controversy. The fight was close.
Go back to what you just said about the first 7 rounds. You just said
That's it.
about the song?
That's it. Yeah.
1 through 7.
1 through 7, he swept the first 7. And all the judges agreed. Everybody agreed. He swept 1 through 7.
Yeah, I'm pulling this one up.
That Andre Ward had gave to Lomachenko.
Round 2.
Lomachenko landed 2 punches. What the fuck was Andre Ward watching?
Oh, wait, he scored round 3? I thought it was round 2.
Yeah, it was round 2.
Yeah, he landed 5.
It was 4 power punches and 1 jab that he landed. Yet Teofimo landed 7 power punches. He was 7 out of 14 in round number 2. So how did you give that round to Lomachenko? When the guy
we're not scoring the rounds with the number of punches right in the head.
Wait. Let me get.
We're not going back and saying we're not going back after the fight. Or after the round.
I scored it in the moment. I scored it in the moment because you can see that Teofimo Lopez was landing the jab to the body and was landing the sweeping hook to the body. And you know, when I knew 100% that this fight was over, in round number 3, Lomachenko was about to try to do this little matrix shit, he tried to turn. What Teofimo did, Teofimo hit him with a body shot that lifted his feet off the fucking ground. And after that, Lomachenko didn't want to throw him more punches. He didn't want to throw him more punches. He lifted him off the ground.
Did you say this when Timothy Bradley was doing that to Manny Pacquiao? He threw on down body shots. Was he saying that same exact thing?
I don't even remember Bradley with Pacquiao.
Hey, wait, hey, remember, Matt does not talk about the past.
Man, I'm throwing a flag on that line. I'm going flag.
So what round did you give Lomachenko?
7 for 11.
Why did he get round 7?
Because I thought he landed the harder shot. And round 1 through 6, to be honest, 1 through 6. No, I mean, Theo landed some body shots, but these weren't like clean rounds. Like I scored all 6 of them, but these weren't like dominant rounds. These wasn't like
you don't have
he dominated this. No, you're right.
It was clear.
You're right. I won't say that.
Get points, but toe tapping. That's all of it. Was a football punch. You have to throw. This is boxing. What is the first rule of boxing and judging? Clean, effective punching. You punching is the key word.
Damn.
He wasn't punching.
So answer my question I said earlier, man. If they fought again, who you think will win and why?
Teofimo. Why? Because Lomachenko ain't got nothing for him. He ain't got nothing for him.
Hey.
Lomachenko tried to wait till he was tired to turn up, and he still couldn't get him out of there. And then when he realized he couldn't get him out of there, what Teofimo did, came right back to the 12th round and beat the hell out of him. Then the 60 out of 98 punches against the great Lomachenko. Had Lomachenko stumbling and bubbling like a drunk person on the Las Vegas Strip at 4 o'clock in the morning. Come on, man.
You in the middle of a cookout or something? Oh wait, yo, who is that? They're having like a whole conversation. Yo, nah. Man. Oh goodness! Like if y'all would have seen like some of the like previews that people were talking about. Of course, yeah. The thing. This is one thing with Matt that we kind of like go through before every like big or significant fight. Like Matt usually doesn't pick with confidence until after the weigh-in, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, there was like some discussions during the weigh-in, and there was like, one where they had a group of people, and they were looking at Vasyl Lomachenko, and they were like, "Ooh, look at Lomachenko. He looks real defined. He looks like he built up to the weight. Look at his shoulders. Look at his chest. Look at what he's done with his neck. He has done." Look what he did with the neck exercises. He's going to be ready for Teofimo Lopez's power shots. Oh, my goodness. He's going to be ready. He's going to go after Teofimo Lopez. And I'm like, man, look, if he isn't able to do something where he's going to close the distance against Teofimo Lopez, number one, and the other thing is, if Teofimo Lopez is aggressive with his jab, there wasn't really going to be much that Lomachenko was going to do because at lightweight, he can't really move side to side like he does at super featherweight and at featherweight. And I told people, I said, regardless of what the outcome was going to be, Vasyl Lomachenko was going to go down to 130 pounds because he can't do the things that he was doing at lightweight. He just can't. And I was like, the way that he kind of like approached this fight, the way that his movements were, like he was getting beat. He was getting beat really soundly. And, for him to kind of like wait until the 7th round, that's one thing, but when you're getting punched to the body and scored multiple times to the body, listen, that kind of breaks you down a little bit. So you're not going to step it up until you feel like, oh, I'm way behind in this fight. I'm way behind in this fight. I got to do something. Teofimo, who is that guy? At least now I know who this guy is. Yo, like, come on, man. You gotta. I just didn't understand it, but hey, I just felt like, look, with the advantages that Teofimo Lopez had, in like I said, he's coming down to 135. Being the taller guy, and having all those dimensions, and like I was saying before the fight, he said that he was going to show that he has boxing skill and that he's going to prove it against Lomachenko. And that's what he did. He didn't have to knock him out. He said he didn't have to knock him out. He just said, you know what? Okay, you say that he's a number one pound for pound guy. Okay, cool. I'm going to show that I got skills to hang with and do better than the number one pound for pound guy, and that's exactly what he did.
And then what happens when you feel that power? You know what? Let me survive some round. Let me survive. Now you got people, these Lomachenko fans, they're so happy that Lomachenko didn't get knocked out. Well, you guys just get knocked out. So I guess you guys are wrong. No, you didn't get knocked out because he didn't want to engage, because he felt that power and wanted no part of it. That's all. He did nothing special.
Yep.
Straight up and down, no special effects.
Yep.
All that makeshift shit, all that shit was dead. None of that. Did you see him waving Teofimo in to come fight him? Did you see him acting like a matador with the bull, doing all that shit? Did you see all them little stupid dances that you do? No, none of that. None of that. Because he felt the power and he knew I'm in danger 3 minutes of every single round. And he ain't got no parts of it. And the fight, I need to reiterate that. The fight wasn't close.
Man, I did see him at times when he was engaging, he would get on the inside and throw 2 or 3 punches before Lopez had his arms up, which is where I started to say again.
He would throw 2 or 3 punches, right?
What?
What happened to those 5 and 6 punch combinations? You know what Teofimo did?
They were strong punches, though, man.
Huh?
They were strong punches. In them middle rounds when he was like landing and Lopez was just eating shots, I started to feel like.
But how many shots was he eating, my man? Like, how many punches?
I mean, 3 at the most.
Hey.
That's not enough.
It was hurting. It was hurting.
My flag's still on the ground, man. I just gotta watch round 7. Loma had that, man. He had that.
You guys can give Lomachenko all 12 rounds. The fact of the matter is he got his ass kicked and he lost. Goodbye, Lomachenko.
People sometimes want to go through punch stats, right? As far as like overall punches thrown, not punches landed, but punches thrown. How many rounds did Lomachenko have more punches thrown than Teofimo Lopez?
Maybe one. Yeah. I'll say 1.
Maybe down to nothing, but I would say none.
That's right. 0 rounds.
Because Teofimo ended it. He had like the last couple rounds when he threw 73, 74 punches, 98 punches, 63 punches, 50-something punches. He was outworking him easily.
No, I agree with that. But with the rounds that Loma won, he was landing the harder shots. He was getting Tio's attention. It wasn't a thing of he's outworking Tio or he's outlanding Tio. He was just landing the harder shots while Tio was
how many hard shots equals 11 to 12 to 15 shots from Teofimo?
I guess you would say half of that.
Well,
it would have to equal up to half. But Tio in those rounds, in those late rounds, he wasn't throwing as much. There was fatigue in those rounds. Nah. His energy went way down. He came back in the 4th round. I'm not disagreeing with you on the punch stat. I'm not disagreeing with you. We just talked about that. I'm not going to disagree. I'm agreeing with you. He landed more punches. But Loma was more effective in those rounds based on Tio's fatigue, to me.
And him not jabbing. In them later rounds, he didn't jab, which is why he was getting his ass hit so much.
That was the thing. It was him not. was Lopez's like lack of throwing the jab in the tail end of the fight, particularly in like the those eighth and ninth rounds. I mean, if you kind of like seen it, like his overall punch output where he was kind of like landing the jab and being very effective with it, it just went out the window after about round 8. So by doing that, it gave Lomachenko the opportunity to land much more of the jabs that he was throwing. So that that was basically the story. If Lopez was still throwing the jab and establishing the timing and things like that, he could have basically clearly swept him. Yeah, could have been shut easy. Yeah, shut him out. Because there was just absolutely other than him having that low, there was really no answer for Vasyl Lomachenko for that particular approach.
No, I agree.
Do you think Lopez outlanded Lomachenko? How many rounds?
Yeah, probably 11 of. But that's not what we're debating though. We're not debating who landed more. I'm not debating.
That's like telling people to score the most points is not winning the game. Like, come on.
If they not hard, clean, effective punches, then no, you can
that Lomachenko didn't want to throw. You can't say they weren't effective when Lomachenko didn't want to throw punches.
Yes, that was the case in the first 6 rounds, the first 7 rounds. I agree with you on that. First 6 rounds. I agree with you. But later down, like you guys said, stop throwing the jab. He stopped throwing the jab, and he didn't go to the body as much going on. He was fatigued to me. And Loma headbutts and all that may have played a part in it as well.
Oh yeah, Teofimo did bring that up a few times. He was like, listen, he didn't think that, that Lomachenko would kind of like resort to that, But that's, that's the only thing that kind of like cut down Lopez's momentum, man. He was like, oh.
It really did. It really did.
It was like, oh man, he got my nose. Like, come on, fuck.
And he hurt Lomachenko.
And my thing was, I was like, keep going. Like, forget what the ref said. So once he started doing that, I think he went away from it, but then eventually got back to going to the body. And those were the rounds where he went away from it. When Loma started coming on, and then he came back and started getting back to it. And then eventually that body shot happened where you said that he lifted him up off the ground.
And that kind of stopped his momentum there too when that happened. Because I was like, oh man, he almost, got on him then. So we had those couple of instances where Lopez took everything, took what momentum Lomachenko had, and it went back to Teofimo Lopez. So that's why I felt like, Lopez was like, you know what? For one, I don't feel like Vasyl Lomachenko can hurt me at any point. So either I'm gonna just, walk him down, or I'm gonna just control the pace of this fight and make it seem like it's my fight all the way through. And that was his plan. And he executed that plan, nearly perfectly. So as far as if there was another fight, I don't see Vasyl Lomachenko winning. I don't, because we have multiple different elements that kind of counter what Vasyl Lomachenko does, and like Matt said, it's one thing when you will try to come forward, but if you know that your opponent has power and can punch either with the left hook or uppercut or right uppercut, that could really affect you, then that'll give you second thoughts of coming inside or coming up close or mid-range. And that is the best way that Vasyl Lomachenko could have any chance against Teofimo Lopez is to fight at mid-range or close quarters. Because in the distance, he wouldn't be able to do much of anything at all. So if he doesn't have that, you might as well just throw it out the window there. So like I said, man, you got Teofimo Lopez, the new unified lightweight champion. After the fight, you had Teofimo Lopez Sr. say that, over the past few years, it's been taking some time for, Teofimo Lopez to get down to 135. So he says he thinks it's time for him to move up. So most likely Teofimo Lopez will have his next fight at 140 pounds. Let's see.
Can you guys see the reaction video from Devin Haney on Fight Hype, who pretty much disregarded Teofimo as a champion? I'm like, dude, what are you smoking? This dude just fought the king of the division and dominated him, and you're not regarding that as a good win. Did you guys see that on Fight Hype?
I didn't see the Fight Hype. Oh God! Don't do that! Don't do that! Don't do that! But he also made another mistake on Twitter. He made a reaction comment to this and said that Loma is too small and too old. Well, he got roasted by multiple people, of course, because he's fighting Yuriorkis Gamboa on November 7th. So it's like, how are you going to say something about Vasyl Lomachenko when you're fighting Yuriorkis Gamboa? Oh, man. And shoot, ain't Gamboa older than Vasyl Lomachenko?
And you can make an argument.
Yo.
So who is Haney's best opponent today? Who is his best opponent? Exactly.
Oh man. I mean, there's some things where, we, try to, say that we'll defend Devin Haney in some instances, but to Matt's point, we haven't really seen, most people haven't seen Devin Haney, and that ever since he's kind of that he signed with Eddie Hearn, he's kind of went by the wayside. I think he's not necessarily at Demetrius Andrade level, but he's kind of close in reference to the type of fights that he's having and the ones that he's, basically accepting. So he goes ahead and he has this fight with Yuriorkis Gamboa. It's like, okay, but yeah, Teofimo Lopez has multiple fights that he can have at 135 pounds, but I just don't see Lopez really staying there at 135. That he'll go up to 140. Although it would be a better move to stay at 135, because if he moves up to 140, he won't necessarily get the fights that he would want immediately. I said earlier, at 140 pounds, people are saying he may face the winner of Josh Taylor and Jose Ramirez. I'm like, nah, because the winner of that fight is going to move to 147. So that's going to be out. The loser might end up moving up to 147. So who are you going to end up fighting? Victor Postol? And then what else is out there? So what are you going to do? Just wait for these other fighters? Here's the thing.
What would he do at 35?
Here's the thing. He can still fight Devin Haney at 35. Either you can fight him at 35 or you can fight him at 40. Teofimo Sr. says that the fight's going to be at 140. But
yeah.
But the
so
thing
there's a likelihood of Teofimo facing somebody a live body next. Like, I don't think he's facing somebody that's a real threat next. It's going to be like a showcase fight. Because when most people fight, elite guys, they don't come right back and fight elite guys. They take some type of...
but it's not like that's just a fight.
Yeah, but they're still not going to give him another top guy after he just became a star. They're not even going to feed him Devin Haney or give him Devin Haney, however you want to say it, straight away. They're going to give him some type of tune-up. And then by that time, you talking about spring of 2021, then he's really not gonna want to be at the weight. So now you will give him a whole year next summer sometime try to fight Haney when obviously he's ready to go to 140.
Right.
So that's why I'm thinking he just might go straight up to 140 now and just do a tune-up and then go from there. Because he's not going, unless you guys want to see another Lomachenko rematch, other than that.
Yeah, but that's not going to happen.
Straight away. Right. So, what's the point of staying on 35? Because Haney ain't that. They're just not going to be a thing. And then you ask yourself how long you're going to be able to make the win.
Well, I think these next few weeks will kind of be a barometer as to what happens with higher caliber fights, because if you have the things that'll happen with the Tank Davis fight and the Errol Spence fight, where they're going to be able to have fans in the stands. If they have like more venues that are able to allow fans in the stands, then you could have, the fights of that magnitude. They just want the gate revenue off of that. So if they're able to get the gate revenue off that, then yeah, we could see those type of fights. But if not, then you're just going to see, like a showcase fight or whatever it is. But even with a showcase fight, it's not like, hey, let's have Teofimo Lopez over at the theater in Madison Square Garden or Madison Square Garden. It's going to be a good while before anything happens in New York City. So what else can you do here at this particular point? For
the current fight is IBF mandatory.
Is that fight gonna happen? That final eliminator? Okay. I'm just trying to figure out what the date is for that, because I'm like, man, they've moved it like 50 times. The 31st. All right, bet. So it'll be on the 31st. George Kambosos versus Lee Selby. And then we'll see if he could have that mandatory defense there at 135 if he wants it. Shoot, what the hell is up with Felix Verdejo? I'm just throwing that out there. Like, what the hell are they doing with the kid? But yeah, I just feel like that's the options for Teofimo Lopez. And I felt win, lose, or draw. Vasyl Lomachenko was moving down to 130. He was going to move down regardless. So Vasyl Lomachenko, I've said either, I know that someone said that he would be fed to Shakur Stevenson. But I feel like he's going to go against the winner of Valdez Burchelt. And the winner, well, hey, if Herring is looking to have that fight against Carl Frampton, then that winner will face Shakur Stevenson. So then who else is Lomachenko going to fight? Wait, what? Oh, Zanfer Promotions?
Yeah.
Damn.
How many times does he get to the time shot that he doesn't deserve?
Yeah,
Happening since he got into boxing.
Then you got in the boxing, exactly. Like how you lose a fight and then get a world title shot the next fight.
Yeah.
No, it's not at all. Especially when
We not even consider who he beat. We just not gonna take that into consideration.
we can. Okay.
We just gonna look at the record and say it's trash. We're not even gonna consider who it was against or nothing like that.
We could actually, given the circumstances on multiple fights that he's had, we could.
I mean, for 16 fights, I mean that's a damn good record.
Yeah. So you mean to tell me if somebody starts after 16 fights, 14 and 2, you'd be impressed?
If it's against that type of competition, absolutely.
What type of competition? Let's look at it.
How many world champions before? Tell me how many world champions there fought 16 fights? Because I counted 8, maybe 9. Now, you talking about now? At some point, world champions in 16 fights.
Yeah, but you have to remember who these world champions are. A lot of these people are.
Rigo is the Hall of Fame. Rigo is the Hall of Fame.
He
right?
was 2 weight divisions.
No, absolutely.
Okay.
But he beat him. Okay. He beat an undefeated Nicholas Walton, who beat Donaire, who everybody trying to prop up.
How many years ago was that fight?
Okay.
How many years ago?
So now fights don't matter at all.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing, exactly.
Absolutely. But how many fights is now going on currently going on without fighting a year? Do we trash Gary Russell from fighting once a year? We still consider him a good fighter because he only fights once a year, but he's still a good fighter.
Okay. Okay, here's the thing with Nicholas Walters, right? Okay.
I can't speak to the rematch, but I can speak to what happened in the fight.
Here's the thing that was pointed out.
That's all I care about, who they fought and what happened in the fight.
But here's the thing with the circumstances, right? Particularly with Nicholas Walters, right? So a year before, he has his fight with Jason Sosa, and he was actually going through a promotional rift with Bob Arum at that time. So, so once that fight happened, right? But that is a huge factor when it comes to fights of this magnitude. We've seen it multiple times. So
right, but we think it's guys who rise to the occasion with the same circumstances. We cannot sit here and pick and choose. We say Mr. Walters been out for years, but we give Gary Russell credit. Say it again. He beat a Hall of Famer and don't there. What are we talking about here now? What are we saying? Like we just gonna throw away everybody that we don't like. We just gonna throw them away, not looking at who they beat or nothing like that. We just gonna say
we're not gonna throw away everybody.
Hold on. We just said a guy who fought 9 world champions. He's what? His numbers don't look that good. Come on, y'all. What are we doing?
That's your question.
Okay.
Do you think Lomachenko deserves a rematch?
It don't matter. It don't matter to me. I don't care. I would say no. Let Teo do his thing. You know what I'm saying? No, he don't deserve. If you lose and you cleanly lose, man, you wrong.
So Lomachenko deserves a title fight in his next fight.
Is Loma one of the top lightweights for junior lightweights in the world? Regardless of win or loss? Come on, man. So you telling me Canelo can't get enough title shot after he got whitewashed. Canelo got whitewashed by fullweight. And he out here beating people light heavyweight. Come on, y'all. What are we doing?
Canelo has to be I agree with you. If he wants a title shot, he should fight for the WBC lightweight title against Devin Haney. How about that?
Hey, he can do that.
I'm going to tell you, he's not going to fight Devin Haney. I'm tired of telling y'all this. Hold on. Let me see if I got I think I got someone on here that's on cue from the 404 area code. You're on the Boston Source Radio Show. What's up?
Yeah, what up, man? This is Nas. I'm sitting there listening to y'all, but y'all gotta keep that conversation going. Cause look, I'm catching white Xavier vibes from all the Loma hype. Like it got to the point where they was already putting this man in greatest pound for one of the greatest pound for pound of all time and all this other stuff. Y'all was just running down his resume, and then my man was coming back like, wait a minute, let me scrutinize each one of those. Y'all got to finish that conversation, yo. That was real good radio. I'm sitting here listening and learning. Like y'all gotta break that down.
Yeah, I mean, my thing was with Vasyl Lomachenko. Like, I mean, you know, a lot of people talk about the thing about him being the quickest to, 3 world championships in 3 weight classes. We know the circumstances that he had going into being a professional. Of course, he had the very long amateur career. And so with that being said, he was saying that he's ready to go after these world titles in the first fight. And nobody from no promotional group would allow him to do that. But Bob Arum said, hey, we won't necessarily do it on your first fight, but we could try to do it on your second fight and have you like fight for a minor title in the first fight. So that's how Vasyl Lomachenko went that direction with Top Rank and had the WBO International featherweight title in his first fight. And then, of course, the second fight with Orlando Salido for the vacant WBO featherweight championship. And he loses that fight. But the next fight after that, it wasn't even 3 months after, he fights for another vacant title against Gary Russell Jr. And listen, there's a reason why there's only like one video or one thing that shows that entire fight. Because, hey, I'm sorry. So,
are we saying that? Or are we saying? What are we saying? What are we saying? Are we saying that Lomachenko lost the record?
I am.
Okay.
Okay. I am. Now.
That's cute because I actually watched Lomachenko Gary Russell again this past week, and I was kind of probably, if I walked away, convinced even more so that Lomachenko won that fight because during the championship rounds.
That Lomachenko won.
Yeah, so those championship rounds, Russell Jr. definitely started to fade and was definitely out of the
Nah. Who won the fight? I don't care about the knockdown. Who won the fight? He don't win the knockdown. Who won the fight?
You say you watched it.
Lomachenko won the fight.
Okay.
What's the knockdown?
Yeah, but this is what I'm saying. Like, to a casual fan like me, he's being sold and packaged in a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying y'all know and the scene, like I'm just going off the eye test from a dude that don't know as much about boxing as y'all. So I didn't see all-time great, one of the best, That's how he's being packaged. So when I see the joint last night, again, I'm sitting here like, okay, yeah, when is the special stuff supposed to happen? Because I'm not seeing, I see a good fighter, possibly championship fighter, but the way that they sold him, bro, that's kind of what, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
That's what made me kind of not like dude.
Well, that's it, but his resume is his resume. That don't mean that he's not a good or great fighter. Like, we just saying, okay, he didn't meet the hype that people play.
Right.
That's all that's saying. That still doesn't take away what he's done. Maybe he's not
that good though.
Come on, man. Come on, brother.
Okay.
Hey, it was brief. Like, it was brief. It was brief. But when I seen Prince and I seen Shine, when I seen it, I knew that was something special. I don't see that with this dude. I'm sorry.
Let me add my 2 cents in.
All right.
So everything is relative when it comes to anyone. Let's just use Lomachenko. So Lomachenko saw a guy, which I agree with Rory in Rigondeaux, where if you look at all of Rigondeaux's fights up to this point, you would say Rigondeaux is definitely a Hall of Famer, nicknamed Jawbreaker, because he literally breaking people's jaw. Brandon was smaller than Lomachenko, but Lomachenko made him quit. He didn't make him quit necessarily because he hurt him really bad. He made him quit because he outboxed him, which both of them two guys won gold medals. And like this one, he just fought a bigger guy, a younger guy, a guy who I don't think what's his name was quicker than him, because when he did exercise his foot movement, he did exercise, you know, the movement and all the things he wanted to do in those middle rounds. He dominated the fight, which is why I asked these guys, what do you think will happen in the next fight? I think Lomachenko would start a lot sooner. He would take more risks past round 3, round 4. Round 3, round 4, he would start taking risks. And he didn't let it go, you know, 7 rounds before he started exerting himself. Because when he exerted himself, the class difference showed to me. But boxing is boxing. What's his name won rounds? But the class difference showed when Lomachenko exerted himself. That's just my opinion.
So did he stop exerting himself around 12?
Excuse me?
Did he stop exerting himself around 12?
I think the best thing that could have happened came together with Teofimo Lopez, which is Lomachenko was already closing the distance. He was already stepping in, getting around Lomachenko, and landing big shots. So what that meant was Lopez finally started sitting down and throwing with Lomachenko. My thoughts when Lomachenko was landing them shots on him, 2-3 shots on him, was Lopez will have to eat a few of them because Lomo's speed is such that it's such greater. His foot speed and hand speed, it would be maybe not hand speed, but foot speed definitely was so much greater to where he could get around him and land 3 shots. He gonna have to eat the first 2 of them shots and swing in between, and that's when he was gonna have success with landing on Lomo, which is what he started doing. Lomo tried to open up, and you know Lopez opened up, and shit, young guy opened up with the old guy, and you close to him. The right thing happened for Lopez.
Yeah. All I asked you was, did he assert himself in the 12th round? Yes or no?
I think he tried to, but when they both got themselves, Lopez got the better of the exchange.
Yeah. Now, this.
So what makes you think anything else would have been any different if he started earlier? He probably got his ass knocked out. Lopez just.
The thing about it, with the other little rounds, he was exerting himself too. Lopez just wasn't throwing punches in. Lopez was too busy with his arms on his side.
I don't necessarily feel that was the case. I just felt like he didn't throw the jabs like he was doing earlier. But when, you know, Vasyl Lomachenko was coming up close, like Lopez was answering, and he was answering with the power shots. He was answering with, you know, right uppercuts. He was answering, you know, with right hands, a few counters. So the thing with Lomachenko is, he has to come in between mid-range or close, but he's going to have an answer when he comes in. That's why Lomachenko's like real success was when he was able to tie up Lopez, because Lopez didn't really know what to do when he was tied up for a good while. And that's when, you know, Lomachenko was sneaking in those punches. So Lopez had to push off a couple of times to get Lomachenko away from him. But once they were like up real close and in a tie up, that's when Lomachenko kind of like did his thing, throwing those punches.
Yeah, and he didn't come after him early because it's the threat. It's that power, it's that fire. It's like any other fight we see. It's easy to say, well, you know, he should have got in there and mixed up with him, man. You start standing on the outside because those things hurt. We heard for years about Brittlehand Floyd, about how everybody's going to come get close to Floyd. And guess what? Their right kind of hurt.
that Floyd used to keep people off of him with.
Yeah.
He kind of hurt, and he ain't a big puncher. But this kid looks like he can punch, and Lomo felt that. That's why he mixed it up.
Can we go through Lomachenko resume? That's what we're talking about. That's what.
Yes.
Don't go too much into it because I have an idea that I'm gonna use later on. So because talking about this is
so you don't want me to talk about Claudio, Martinez?
no, not necessarily.
I was talking about, you will point out one of the fighters out of my 16 fighters and say that, go through a resume and see how many know names it is. Go to Stardust Senior, go to Stardust Senior and see how many buns on his resume.
Pathetic.
You said who?
His run at featherweight was pathetic.
That must include Gary Russell, right?
That
Exactly.
Gary Russell, and it still was pathetic.
Exactly. So now Gary Russell was pathetic. That's what we
No, that's not what he's saying. What he's saying is even
All I know is that you have people saying that Lomachenko was the greatest featherweight of all time. Now, normally Gary Russell, but a win over Gary Russell doesn't make you the greatest featherweight of all time.
Absolutely. But it doesn't make
Right.
it doesn't make you what you just said he was either.
Who are these other people? Jose Ramirez. Was that the guy that fought now Whitaker? I don't think so. Okay. Some Thai guy that you and I never heard of.
Same thing again?
Julio Kovalski. Who? And then what happened? After that, he moved up to fight for the WBO super featherweight title against Rocky Martinez. Great.
Rocky Martinez, a world champion. Keep going. Who he fight in the second fight? Who he fight in the second fight?
You get confused by smoke and mirrors. You get confused
No, I'm
by
not
that.
I don't think Gary Russell is great on one end, and then
a WBO pipeline. It is a WBO pipeline. Guess what? Michael Carlin is about to be a WBO champion.
Who
he's trash.
you picking in the Rico Loma fight? Exactly. So y'all sit here, y'all pick against this man. And if Rico was trash, so he moved up 2 weights, why y'all picking him? Why?
Who?
Because at the time, Rico was that dude. That's a quality win. Despite the weight issues, that's a quality win. But you don't have those other quality wins. And the thing is, I don't think they're calling him trash. I think they're just saying the hyperbole and the stories about this dude.
I agree with that.
They're trying to get better than I am.
Right.
I agree with that. But we're not talking amongst each other like that. That's what I'm saying. Let's not bring up other people who want to hype somebody else up. Let's bring up the consensus thought of what he is. That's what
Okay.
the higher thought.
Well, there is no consensus. That's the thing.
Don't look at what we're saying about this dude the last couple of years.
He's like the Muhammad Ali. He's that good. Yeah, he a promoter, but he convincing people too. Let me see if I got my guy right on.
We believe what he's saying. But yeah, we're gonna leave out Nicholas Walton. We're gonna leave out Gary Russell. We're gonna leave out bringing down that resume.
I'm telling you.
We're gonna leave out the leader in his second fight. Come on.
Hey, listen. Listen, this has given me a great idea. I'm telling you, I'm going with this. This is gonna be hot. I'm telling you, it's gonna be hot on the channel, boy. It's gonna be hot. This is gonna be better than Gennady Golovkin and Lennox Lewis, boy. It's gonna be. Oh man, y'all, yeah, hey, I'll just give you some good joint to talk about, man. With this one, cause yo, but you know, for like manager point, it's like a lot of it seems like and I kind of like brought this up in reference to Teofimo Lopez and his rant at the end of the press conference. It's like leading into the fight, a lot of people were giving Vasyl Lomachenko credit like he was the USC Trojans that were about to face the Texas Longhorns in the Rose Bowl. You know, like it was almost like a shoe-in, like, oh, he's gonna be the first 4-belt world champion. He's gonna be champion at featherweight, super featherweight, and lightweight, and have all these belts at lightweight, and be crowned as this guy with only like 15, 16 fights. And it's like, well, kind of like look at this, and it may not be like how they're building it up to be. You know what I mean? So yeah, I kind of like compare this to to college football, man.
In the 90s, they would bring over somebody from Europe who was supposedly a top 10 talent, whatever. They get here, be trash, or you know it, they be back overseas because they just wasn't good enough. But we get that grainy tape and them balling against, low-level competition and think they was better. So that's all it is. All I'm saying is Lomo ain't Luka. When Luka came here, he was the real deal. Lomo ain't that. And they just try to make him out to be that.
That's a fair point. But what I'm gonna say is, like, we build up Crawford to be this great thing. What is this resume? Like,
who's saying that? Who around here is saying that? Who?
I think you got a point.
Hey, come on, man. Out of control, though, man.
But you're talking about Terence Crawford.
But in terms of actually scoring and improving, I agree. Crawford needs to fight some more legitimate fighters. Like,
right.
Yeah, but that's not. Yeah, but that we basically agree with that. We basically agree with that.
Like, who gotta matter? Like, you can look great against anybody.
You like Anthony Corolla. What?
But we do got to say this. Crawford was a world champion. Crawford had
no, he was not.
Crawford, yeah, but you got to say this. Crawford has a thin resume, and he has thin endorsements on top of that. This dude is being presented as it. Like I said, man, you just read the stuff online, and I ain't talking about trolls online. I'm talking about legit boxing publications that are writing stuff about this dude to where you would think he was Sugar Ray Robinson, you know what I mean, reincarnated or something. Like, just look at how he's presented, look at the endorsements he's gotten, and tell me that it's the same as Crawford. It ain't the same, bro.
The thing that
they belong anyway too.
The thing that the people on this channel are not saying that we already know is truth, we on a numerous amount of occasions have said exactly what you have said. All of these people get all of this undue credit, and they are being crowned without having been tested for the crown. Monster Inoue, Nomino, Daenerys, all of the other, all these other people that's on Top Rank or whoever else that they crown these people, and they get beat so easily. That's one thing that we're not saying. We've already said that, Lomachenko had to show and prove. We've already said this, but the thing that I think World Rank is trying to say is that, yes, people have room to show that they are the number. So to me, the number one pound fighter based off of production is Canelo Alvarez. That doesn't mean that he's the best fighter. Doesn't mean he's the most skillful fighter, but in terms of production, in terms of what he has done in the ring, in terms of who he has fought, in terms of what it has meant, he's the best fighter. And then after that, Errol Spence, somebody. Terence Crawford ain't up there in terms of what he's meant because his resume at 140 is lower than Danny Garcia. It's lower than Kim Bradley. It's lower than name some of these other little boys that are coming up. What's the boy from New Orleans? It's probably less than him too. Like
Regis Prograde.
these guys.
Well, no, actually, you could say it's lower than Josh Taylor's right now, and a lot of people have said that.
But that's what we're not saying on this thing. We're saying exactly what you're saying, bro. In that you can't crown these people without them having to go through the test to be crowned. You can't get knighted without having to go through the trial for tribulation.
Why is it it's only the Black Americans that need to prove it to be crowned? The Eastern Europeans come over here and they're crowned as the greatest and the boogeyman, and they're look at how great their skills are. They're crowned as these top guys.
Good night, Golovkin.
Take it over here.
Good night,
Why do
Golovkin.
we care about that? So that's just how we our business. So from there.
We can't go off of what the boxing media has and their agenda. I'm speaking on our circle, our boxing circle, the circle of winners here. I'm speaking on us telling what's the truth. We know what the agenda is in terms of European fighters getting crowned, or Japanese fighters, or whoever type of fighters getting crowned for doing less than what a black fighter does. And then, when Terence Crawford does do something well or beat a legitimate person, he gets, all this criticism. We know what it is in terms of the agenda. We also know what it is in terms of us calling it a spade. Whereas Terence Crawford ain't the #1 pound-for-pound fighter based on his resume. Based on who he has fought. No, you can't say he's better than Errol Spence based on who he fought. Can you say he has better skills? Yeah, maybe you can. But even Danny Garcia, his resume at 147 ain't better than Danny Garcia. Because at least Danny Garcia has fought Keith Thurman and Sean Porter. Like, even I just need to see more. I don't know if I answered your question.
Now,
why we can't shoot to be Floyd Mayweather? But we knock down everything that comes in our way. If they want to bring the next Mexican on, we looked at it as 12-0. We no question, no doubt. We take on everybody that comes through there so they can't bring up nobody else. That's what we do. We don't worry about what they doing on their side. We worry about how we handle our business, and when they come through on our side, we tap their ass.
I feel you, but careers and legacies and wealth is made on how you sell the story. And the way that they sell the story for them and the way they do it for us is totally different. And it got to be called out. We see this in real time. This is like what our grandfathers and them used to read about back in the day when they would see some bum of the week on the front page, knowing it was people that could get with them or was way better than them at the time and wasn't getting the like. So that's all I'm saying. It's the same playbook. You know what I mean?
But I don't know, we in that same day and age, man. We got, if we do, like Mexican fans, they support their guys. If we do what they do, not what whoever the writers or whoever do, if we just support our fighters, like the Charlo pay-per-view and Tank pay-per-view, if we believe in those guys, and we put our energy into those guys, like we saying, we don't have no issues. Because we back on do that. We back on our own money.
90 seconds.
Yeah.
A lot of black people that would just, or their whole gimmick is take the opposite side of other black people just to curry favor with the mainstream media. That's their whole gimmick.
Again, why do we care? We can't because you think they think about us. That's the mindset you gotta have. They not thinking about us. They not thinking about us. The Mexican fans go out and support Canelo. They do their thing. They don't sit here and care about what everybody writing about them. They gotta go out in that ring and do their thing. That's what we gotta do.
Man, I want you to look up anything online that's published about Canelo, and I want you to see if it ain't Mexican fans on there holding their feet to the fire. If anything in that article is out of line, anything in that commentary is out of line. Oh, they care and they respond, bro. So it's the same thing.
That's what Americans should be doing. Americans Because remember, Mexico, that's not a race. That's just a country. All of these people have countries behind them, but our fighters don't have enough
10 seconds.
because we live in a society of race people, so we ain't gonna get them. But then they got the coons. The coons, man. If we get the coons to stop being coons, then we can get the support. Let's see,
we making too much excuses, man. I mean, every black coons and this man, come on, and it starts with them. I ain't never seen nobody not take care of their house and go try to take care of somebody else's house or worry about somebody else's house. Man, handle your business in your household and then go outside. I've never seen.
But you saying any boxer or any promoter is its own entity. They all within the, you know what I'm saying, the little ecosystem of boxing, and that ecosystem of boxing, there's a lot of other folks in it, a lot of other hands in it. That's what we're saying, bro. So yeah, we got a name.
We got a name. We got a name. I don't think that's the whole thing.
And he's not important enough.
Yeah.
That's all not.
Hey, bro, I'm gonna point out the problem right here. Let's go through. I'm gonna name a fighter, and we're gonna go through and get the consensus of what people think about this fighter.
All right.
Deontay Wilder. Now let's go through. Starting with James. I asked everybody to do this exercise. Real quick.
All right.
He's a big
Here's the thing.
And compelling interview, so he can sell fight.
Here's the thing. When it comes to supporting, I go to his fights. So that is the bottom line. If you say that we got to support these guys, then in the media, I am a constructive critic of Deontay Wilder.
I saw you fighting in the hotel in Alabama with him.
So I was teaming up with Dominic Brazil against Deontay Marcellus.
That Wilder is going to prove behavior by not speaking out because someone told him not to speak out as of this time right now.
He already spoke out. We talked about.
Oh, that was going to go into the whole rumor report section of the show.
Hey, did y'all see him speak out? Have anybody seen him speak out on social media? Recently?
We talking about social issues.
No, I'm talking about his situation.
How to make him a cool?
Because let's say somebody said that because somebody who's not of his liking told him to not speak on the situation or on the map.
As opposed to not speaking on the map. Let me break down to you what a coon is. A coon is a Negro that is trying to gain advancement off the back of other Negroes for the appeasement of the majority. That ain't got nothing to do with Wilder.
That's good.
Hey, he's not speaking right now. Everybody's him to talk right now.
Well.
But why? Because his team is not to talk.
Well, right. This would go into what we would call the rumor report section of the show. And the rumor is the reason why Deontay Wilder hasn't talked in this amount of time is because there may not be anything that he can do in reference to this situation. Tyson Fury moving on is because there's no other choice. It's not. I don't think it's because of the contract. I feel that it's because Wilder is out of commission and will be for a good while. And I'm talking about many months.
Yeah, and then the interesting part is sometimes we got to be careful who we ask to speak. Remember a couple of years ago, they were telling Des Bryant, hey, what do you thought to this? What do you thought to this? And then Des commented, and people like, oh, hell, why y'all put the mic in front of that brother? Make sure somebody is speaking because it's on their heart, it's on their mind, they thought about it, it's something they really, you know what I mean, got to say about it. Don't pressure these brothers to speak. Right now.
No, I wasn't talking about his social media stuff. I'm talking about his career.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about his boxing career. I ain't talking about
boxing career because from a boxing standpoint, it said that the third fight was going to be in July, and then it got delayed to October, and then it said it was going to be in December. And now that there's no, locked in date for December, that Tyson Fury said that he's going to move on and have a fight on December 5th in the interim. And folks like saying that Tyson Fury is doing that to kind of like get out of the fight. And I initially was saying that right now at this particular point, it wouldn't be financially feasible to have a fight of that magnitude in December because it still has that joint pay-per-view agreement towards it. And you're going to need not just the pay-per-view numbers, but the gate revenue in order to, have the money to, for both Fury and Wilder in that fight. And that's not there at this particular point. But like I said, as a rumor, Deontay Wilder might be out.
Going to be interesting to see what people do as far as for different sports. Like they're gonna come up with some creative ways to get some fans in there, high ticket or something. They're gonna do something to figure out something.
Hey, listen.
But this COVID thing.
Now, hey, listen. If Nick Saban could be on the sidelines. If Nick Saban could be on the sidelines after testing positive 4 days ago, folks will find a way to get people in the stadium and whatnot. You know what I mean? So I just feel like there's a real, something real serious with Deontay Wilder right now.
No, that's a good point. But Nick Saban was part of the administration. You talk about fans who buy a ticket and they go home and then you have an outbreak in that local city, you don't want that stigma on whatever franchise or whatever event you do. So I don't know, man. That's going to be a whole other thing, too.
Yeah.
Figuring this out going into next year.
Hey, but then we get to Fury saying that he wants to be active. He doesn't want to wait till fans have to come back. And that's why they talking about, all this and trying to get all those Euro guys to face them in the UK, without fans.
Yeah, and the thing is like you're having a fight in the interim, like and you kind of like hear these guys saying that they want to fight on the Michael Hunters and things like that, but they're not going to be able to put up that type of money. Like you got the announcement of Joshua Pulev, and it's going to be at the O2 Arena. Like right now, they're in a situation where they might have another lockdown. So actually, that fight might be in jeopardy if the UK does that. So even if you have Fury fighting on December 5th, whether it's the closed studio or whatever it is, like that isn't going to be, something to the point where, Wilder, is being written off and kind of shoot off. No, not necessarily. You just need to have something in the interim so that Fury stays active, at this particular point. And then when the time is, available for a fight of that magnitude to happen, then they can go ahead and make that happen. But yeah, as of this point, who knows when that could, when that could be the case anywhere, not just in the U.S. or, the U.K., but anywhere because of that whole little COVID situation.
Crazy, bro. Crazy.
Yeah. Yep. So, I mean, that's I got on that. This is like part of the overtime session of the podcast. We're off the live thing for Blog Talk. But going back into one of the subjects that we were talking about, Mr. Terence Crawford, it was quote unquote announced yesterday that he is fighting Kell Brook in November, which pretty much like everyone knew at least 3 to 5 days earlier. And it kind of goes into the whole thing about resumes, in reference to Terence Crawford, though. But I don't know what to make of it. Some people feel like if Kell Brook is, able to, make weight and be there, no problems, and still have, any, type of skill, that Terence Crawford would have some problems against Kell Brook. Me, I don't know, because I really don't feel like Kell Brook is completely healed off of those 2 orbital bone injuries. So what do y'all think about this fight coming up here in a few? Man, it's gonna be less than a month.
Let me consult Stephen A. Let me see.
I'm here to tell you right now. We don't care. We don't
I mean, this is just a preposterous and ridiculous matchup that's being brought up here. I mean, Terence Crawford is supposed to be one of the top pound for pound fighters, and he's going up against Kell Brook. Kell Brook. We're talking about Kell Brook. Kell Brook. It's like, I don't know, man. Yeah, I mean, hey, it is what it is. That's what Bob Arum has for Terence Crawford right now, at least at this particular point. So Kell Brook is able to, be over here in the States. You could have him fight in, I guess, the ballroom in MGM Grand, and they'll have, I guess, the same 100 people that they allowed for last night's fight. So I guess that's how we do it.
I just want to make sure that top ranked guys include brand flakes just like cornflakes, raisins brand just like cornflakes. I just want to make sure it's the same.
Man, I don't know, man. Maybe I should get who to come on the show once again to talk about this fight. See what he says about it. You don't want Matt to pull up that clip again. Yeah. I feel for him. I really feel for him. Although there's like another maybe you should have. Maybe you should have. There might have been like another like rumor type thing with Terence Crawford in reference to his sparring sessions. So that might be held for a later time. But I ain't gonna really talk about it now because that came from somebody else within the circle. So I actually want him to kind of like go into it, but he's not on right now. So that is what that is, man. Of course, next week, supposed to be scheduled next week You have Subriel Matias against the Iceman Malik Hawkins. That's supposed to be next week. Got like a good card there in Uncasville, Connecticut, with the main event Sergey Lipinets now against Castillo Clayton because of that situation with the so-called visa of Abdul Kakarov. When some people may think it's not quite because of the visa. Because Abdul Kakarov is aligned with who?
Top rank.
Yep. And looks like they didn't want to go ahead and have Abdul Kakarov against Sergey Lipinets because, hey, we know that Bob Barum likes to make those fights only if he feels like his fighter is going to win. So there's that.
So expect Abdul Kakarov. Yep.
Oh man. And of course, and you also have the you have Xavier Martinez against Claudio Marrero. And you know what? As a favor to Mr. Matt, I'm not going to mention another fight card that's going to happen because it involves fighters that he doesn't care about.
Yeah.
Hey. All I'll say is there's a listen. Hey, I'm looking at a whole bunch of TBAs on that card. Yeah. So is whatever there for that particular event. So man, with that being said, man, I'll bring it into this particular podcast of the Boxing Source Radio Show. Thank everyone for calling in and being a part of this particular podcast. We'll see if the thing will be back at it next week, and we'll see how that is. I may, keep the conversation going on YouTube because that one will be more of a rumor, I guess, the rumor mill type section of the Boxing Source. So y'all could just go over to the YouTube portion and keep the conversation going there. But in reference to this, like I say at the end of every show, point of boxing is a hit and I get hit like Vasyl Lomachenko got hit last night. Teofimo Lopez. Not the same trade. On that note, folks, I'm out. Have a good evening, everybody.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.
Yo, all right. Want to get someone in here. What's going on, Mr. 1-2 Kid? What's going on, man?
Hey, how you doing, man?
You should be on here. Yeah, what's up with you?
Oh, nothing much, man. I seen that you was live, so I was like, yo, let me just hop on real quick, See how you doing. Show some support, you know what I mean?
Yeah, thanks for the support, man. Thanks for the support. Like, we went through the whole conversation about what happened in reference to the main event. We really didn't go into the other part of the fight card. Of course, with you had the thing with Edgar Berlanga on there, having another first round knockout, and then you had that co-feature bout between Alex Acedo and Arnold Barbosa Jr. But hey, everybody was talking about this Vasyl Lomachenko, Teofimo Lopez, man. What were your thoughts about the fight?
Well, yeah, man. I won a lot of money. I'm extremely excited. I'm happy. It's funny. A lot of people ain't a lot of people didn't go to Lomachenko's body, which is a little weird to me because he's built like a wet squirrel. So the fact that Teofimo did that, didn't fight for foot position, he didn't have to because he was doing his own thing. I was extremely impressed with the fight and how it went down. I think it showed certain things in both fighters, some that were kind of neglected, and I think he had a decent game plan. I think Teofimo had a good game plan going in. He was the bigger guy. He had a lot of advantages going for him, and I could see that. And when I was saying it to everybody thought I was nuts. But sometimes you gotta roll the dice roll the dice to win, man. So I thought it was a fantastic fight though. Taking nothing away from Lomachenko, but Teofimo got options out here, man. He's a big star now.
Yeah, he does have options. Even though Teofimo Lopez Sr. did say that he wants his son to move up to 140 pounds, that it was a struggle of sorts, he says, for Teofimo Lopez to come down to 135. So maybe that kind of looks like he was walking around at like a 147 or 145 type of thing, and then cut down to 135 or something like that. So he doesn't want his son to cut that much weight and then turn around and try to make your fight happen and things like that. But in comparison to what Teofimo Lopez was saying, he was like, he like was, when he was cutting down the weight, he was like making sure everything was all good, that he didn't really lose much of his bearings and things like that, so that it didn't feel like he was drained physically or mentally over the course of the fight. And that's basically what it was. He was not, physically drained. He wasn't mentally drained. He was there, focused, throughout the point of that fight against Vasyl Lomachenko. And, that second half of the fight, he, was so poised enough to where even though Vasyl Lomachenko increased the offensive output, Teofimo was able to answer a couple of times in that instance. And that was key to like have it to where he wouldn't be in that much trouble where Lomachenko could blitz him,
Right. I think that I agree with you on that. That he does make the weight well, but his pop's probably just looking out for his health in the future because we don't know what type of toll that's going to take on him later on, and he could get away with stuff like that while he's younger, but we don't know. There's no blueprint to what that will do to you later, even though you can get away with doing that. And I felt like that when I looked at the fight. I was like, okay, I think this guy can do this. But if you stick around too much longer, I don't know how that's going to affect his career in the future. You may not see immediate results, but it can affect you later on. We don't know, So I think he's just looking out for his son in that manner. Although I would like for him to be undisputed at 135, and then with the WBC franchise championship, he'll get first shot at undisputed at 140. And if he was to accomplish that, I'm not sure if that's ever been done. But especially in this era, like right now, I have him as the best young guy, out there right now. For his accomplishments, 2 back-to-back champions, decent champions, especially the Lomachenko win, because I'm not going to discredit Lomachenko because that would discredit, Teofimo. Right. And the other thing is everybody who was talking about Nakatani being a bum, how good is Nakatani now? This guy went 12, and I think that fight was a little closer than the Lomachenko
scorecards. Yeah, in the scorecards, because during the podcast, I kind of like pulled up the thing for Teofimo Lopez against Nakatani, and the scorecards were very wide in Teofimo Lopez's favor. But it looked like Lopez had struggled, I guess, at times, and that it was basically a tough fight. But I think that it could have been an instance where, Nakatani, with his, height and stuff like that, is a tough fight for anybody at that particular weight class. I mean, you got Nakatani there. I mean, he was there, undefeated, 18-0, and he's 5'11" there at, at lightweight. So you rarely have guys there with those type of, dimensions in the lightweight division. So I think that was something that, Teofimo hadn't really dealt with there as a professional. So that kind of would have been a factor in this particular case. But the thing with Vasyl Lomachenko, I'm not sure if you caught the podcast. There was a very good back and forth discussion in reference to Vasyl Lomachenko and where his standing is as far as how various groups, of people view him. And that, he's going to be a Hall of Famer, with the accomplishment that he's attained. But I'm going to have a type of discussion type video in reference to Vasyl Lomachenko up to this particular point. And I feel like it could bring out those that are, in favor of Lomachenko and those that are not in favor of Lomachenko. And it will be a good back and forth discussion that if I brought it up in a forum, it would really, have people really going back and forth, because there was a big back and forth discussion about Lomachenko's run as a professional up to this point. Even though that he does, have those titles, it's some people question, okay, does he really have that type of resume, a stellar resume? Who knows? But I will discuss that in a later point. But in reference to Lomachenko right now, I felt like regardless of the outcome of this fight, I felt like he was going down to 130 pounds. I didn't think that there was going to be much else for him at 135. So I felt like he was going to go down to 130. He has a good amount of options at 130. That include the thing for, I said the Burchelt Valdez, Burchelt and Valdez could be an option for him. Jamel Herring could be an option for him. If Carl Frampton, if you have the Herring-Frampton fight and Frampton wins, Frampton is an option. And there's also Shakur Stevenson. So a lot of fights could be made for Vasyl Lomachenko at 130 pounds within top rank.
Also though, he said that he wants to fight Tank. So that could be a fight that could be made too. And being that he's coming off a loss, I think that would benefit both of them. As I think Tank is extremely talented. I just don't think he's disciplined, and I just wish he would be, because that would make him more of a factor. I think he's buying into the hype himself when he's got the skill set to be great. He just I don't like how he's moving in his career. This whole fight with Leah Santa Cruz, I'm not hyped about that. I'm really not, man.
Right.
I can't get up for that. And I'm like, this dude, and I'm just waiting for him to say something about Teo, and I'm like, he can't compete with this guy right now. When it comes to where he's at, and I would like to see him compete, but I mean, where is he really? And then Haney, I consider him the WBC champ at the time. I do. Yeah. I don't know. I don't think he earned it, but I do consider him the WBC champ. But I haven't really seen him in there with anybody to gauge him completely, Right. And even Ryan Garcia, even though he's stepping up and fighting Campbell, he still got to fight him.
Right.
So, and even if he wins, if any of these guys win their next fight, I still can't put them where I've got Teofimo at the moment
And
as accomplishment.
and the crazy thing is that Teofimo Lopez kind of brought up the fighters that are around his like age bracket and kind of like saying that they want to have those type of fights, those big fights within the first 15 or 16 professional fights that they have. Try to make those big fights as early as possible, because he doesn't want anything to like kind of marinate where it could expire before it gets to the point where it could make the most money, so to speak.
Right.
So
I agree with that. I mean, how many fights have we just witnessed where they marinated too long and we didn't get them?
Right.
Guys got stopped, guys got beat, guys got injured. It's like this marination thing ain't working. And I think it's literally stripping the boxing fan of what boxing is about.
Yeah. And to go into that, one thing that was kind of like brought in the live portion of the the podcast and has been brought in the past like for years is that when you have a quote unquote mega fight, usually they don't like come through. They don't like have it to the point where okay, this is what it's supposed to be. Like it's always a disappointing type result, or it doesn't live up to the hype or things like that. Like in reference to like recent fights, like we've only had a few occasions where that has been the case. Like Anthony Joshua, Latimer Klitschko, or maybe you could say Wilder Fury 1 or something like that. But other than that, you really don't see that in big fights or pay-per-view level fights where the main event, lives up to, the supposed hype. Or even if it is a pay-per-view, that it's pretty much a mismatch, so to speak, in the main event. So,
but we can never really count on that as boxing fans because but the fact that they're making an attempt to do it is good enough for me. When guys ain't trying to unify and guys are saying I want belts, but they ain't really going for them. Guys are holding belts and fighting. Like I was out here vouching for Andre and his next fight. I'm like, I can't do it no more. Like,
right, yeah, the Dustin,
like
Harrison.
he out here fighting. He out here fighting Dusty Rhodes. It's like, come on, man. Like we not
put it on the line.
right. And it's like his last face-off was at a picnic table. Is this gonna be at Denny's? Like, you know what I mean? Are they gonna be interrupted? And he'd be like, yeah, let me get that big slam. Like, that's just corny, man. Like, I'm not buying into this shit no more. I think he's talented, and that goes right into the Tank Davis thing. Like, talented fighters that aren't really trying to make fights happen. And then you got guys like Bud Crawford who made attempts to make the shit happen, and he can't. Right. But you know what? But the one thing Tank does do, Teofimo does do, Ryan Garcia does do, is they promote themselves well. Yeah. And I think that guys like Deontay Wilder, Bud Crawford, and Vasyl Lomachenko also they need a PR guy to teach these guys how to promote themselves. Not just a promoter, but a guy that can actually school them on how to push their career in a different direction, because the talent's there, but you got to give it, man. You know what I mean? You got to put in the work all the way around. And that's why I think Teofimo is on the rise, man. I think it is the takeover, baby. I'm like, yo, this dude can promote a fight. He's doing backflips after the fight. He's promoting the fight before, after. He's promoting fights that he ain't even fighting yet. And it sounds good.
Yeah. And he kind of like blended in multiple elements, leading into fights or after fights. I mean, you had the instance where he's been in Madison Square Garden, in a couple of years, well, 2 consecutive years, I would say, where his fight is where he wanted to show out after the weekend or after the announcement of, like, say, the Heisman Trophy presentation. So the previous year, you had the thing with, Murray, Kyler Murray winning the Heisman Trophy, and then he has a highlight reel knockout, and he, puts on the jersey for Kyler Murray, and then fast forward to last year, when you have the guy from LSU winning the Heisman Trophy there, and he has that highlight reel knockout of Richard Comey, and he puts on the jersey, and that's when they announced a fight with Vasyl Lomachenko, and I've heard many times over for that particular fight, right? And you talk about the thing with Terence Crawford. That was the card with Terence Crawford against Gidzis Kavaliauskas as the main event. It said people were there just for the Teofimo Lopez Richard Comey fight.
Right.
Like, that's how much he had behind him, was that people from that area was buying up the tickets for that particular fight. And that after that, a whole lot of people left when you had Terence Crawford, who's supposed to be one of the guys that they say is among the top pound for pound fighters in the world. And you mean to tell me that people didn't stay to see Terence Crawford? That says a lot.
Yeah, it does. But you know what though? To be honest, I think that got a lot to do with Bob too. Like, I think he promotes certain fighters, and I don't think he puts a lot of effort into promoting Bud Crawford.
Yeah,
but I don't think Bud Crawford puts a lot of effort into doing it too. But but just to be fair, hey, Bud just got to perform in the ring, man. That's up to your promoter to do it, So I mean, that's what you're paying him for. That's why you're getting that percentage. So I mean, I look at it like this: this dude is an undisputed champion, 6-time world champion in 3 different weight classes. How is he not able to unify at 147? To hell with the networks. Like, you can say the networks, this guy don't want to work with the Zone, this guy don't want to work with PBC, this guy don't want to work with Top Rank or Golden Boy, whatever, any narrative people want to go through with. It's like, well, then why isn't this guy the people's champ? You know what I'm saying? Why ain't everyone like, well, we all know these guys are ducking him. Why ain't Bud getting that recognition? And why is he all of a sudden, I've been bigging up Bud for a long time, but why all of a sudden is he not like, why is he getting comfortable with it?
Yeah.
These are the type of things that I look at, man. I pay attention to it, and I'm just like, I don't like that, because I think he's super talented. I'm rooting for Spence to beat Garcia because I don't like the way Garcia handled that whole situation. Who'd he fight in his last 2 fights? Granados and I like to call him Schmiegel. He fought Schmiegel, and I'm like, and now he gets a shot at. He loses to a top tier fighter, fights these 2 guys, and he gets a shot at Spence, fresh off a car accident with 2 titles. I'm like,
who was it? No, we had the fight in January, right?
Right. He fought. I'm trying to think of his name. I keep calling him Gollum and Schmiegel though. But he don't belong at 147. Number one. I think Mark was sparring him, but I'm like, why does this dude get a shot at this guy? You know what I mean? And why is this is the one fight where I was like, nah, I would like to see Spence get a tune-up. Just to see where he's at. I know he's in great shape, but what type of damage did he take? You know what I'm saying? From that car accident. And they're like, well, he got chucked from the car. I'm like, yeah, and he hit the earth. The earth don't move like that. You know what I mean? I'm like, I want to make sure this guy's 110%. And Bud said it himself. He said, I want to make sure he's good. But then to get in with a heavy hitter like Danny, and for Danny to, everyone's saying that Danny's a cherry pick for Spence, and I'm like, I think it's the other way around. I think Danny's looking at it like he's a cherry pick, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I hope that he's not, just because he thinks he's taking the easy route, you know. So
Yeah.
I'm rooting for Spence.
I kind of feel you on that instance that, you know, like with Danny Garcia, it's not like he's fighting the level of like a Yordenis Ugas. I mean,
right.
And he's, a guy that, that he lost to Sean Porter. So he should be able to, fight a Sean Porter once again, or like Yordenis Ugas or someone of that level, to even have a shot at Danny Errol Spence Jr., for those unified titles. But that's not necessarily the case. So I'd be very interested to see how that turns out on December 5th. That's going to be real interesting there. But yeah, going into the pay-per-view that they have October 31st, they moved it to October 31st, just like they moved Spence Garcia from November 21st to December 5th, because they're trying to get the gate revenue for those two events. Kind of like see that being interesting, and that's going to affect how things are in the future for boxing events, because I feel like they want to have people there live on top of having the viewers out there. But even in that instance, I kind of feel like what we've seen over the past few months gives us a couple of fights that we probably wouldn't be seeing, or it kind of like it has a little bit more action in those events that we've had. Like the fights that you had that Baranchik fight. Like, man, listen, that fight right there, man, that was a war.
Yeah, that goes down as one of them. That goes down as one that could be one of the best fights that I've seen in a long ass time. I mean, guys just going down and getting up and just scrapping, and you got a guy who's not known as a big puncher that was like, I'm taking this shit. And he found it. He dug, he found it, and he found himself in that fight. You could tell at the post-fight interview where he said he had doubts, but congratulations to him for finding whatever he needed to find to move forward. And I hope he carries it, and I hope he don't doubt himself again, because he showed grit. Both of them guys got in there and mixed it up, but it is what it is. But a lot of people criticize this whole COVID and bubble thing, but the fact of the matter is, what I do like about it? Of course, you want the crowd to cheer and all that stuff, but you can actually hear what punches are landing and what's not.
Yeah.
Because sometimes the crowd is cheering, it looked like he landed a shot and the guy rose with a shot, but in this instance, you can hear it.
Yeah, you can't get away with that.
Yeah. So, I mean, the scorecards have been a lot closer lately. I don't think anyone's been talking about that, but the scorecards have been like a lot more fair. I don't know about that one scorecard that was on the Teofimo Loma fight. That one was a little. I had Teofimo winning, but I think that was a bit of a stretch. But it was still a good fight. Good fight, though. Good for boxing.
Yeah, the thing with the Charlos, they did their thing. I thought that particular card going into the pay-per-view, I thought that was a great card for matchup purposes. But I think the first half of the pay-per-view was what I think people expected. Knockouts to happen in the first couple of fights, and then a good fight between Jamal Charlo and Sergey Derevianchenko. And then the second one, you just had two fights that were underwhelming, so to speak. And then you had, a fight between Jamal Charlo there against the Banana Man, Rosario. And man, Rosario just wasn't up there for this particular fight, and we
Right.
just fell under deep waters there. So,
Yeah.
but these other fights coming up, man. We'll see how this momentum goes for the sport, and I think in reference to Lomachenko Lopez, like got this from I think it was Keith Idek, that there could have been about 1.8 to 2 million people that watched the main event, but we won't like really find out until later on down the line, like in a couple of days, how those ratings were. But I feel like the way that they pushed this particular fight, that they got a good amount of views that they needed to kind of like have it be like a successful type of event overall. So I think that was pretty good for them.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. You know what though? Back to the Charlos, I just wanted to say that I thought Jamel, the moves he was making, I mean, as to making that fight happen for Undisputed, I thought that was great. Or like he's moving towards that, and I just felt like that was a great move. As for his performance, I felt like he did what he had to do. I felt like Rosario realized he had some trouble, and I feel like he caused some issues to Rosario, and Rosario wanted out. And but as for Jamal, I feel he showed different wrinkles in his game. He was changing speeds. I was impressed not with the accomplishment but title defense or whatever, although it was a good step up for him to fight a Derevyanchenko and to show and to gauge him. And he passed with flying colors, man. I liked it. I liked how he looked out there. I liked that not everything was 110% that he was throwing. He was putting 70% on his shots, using speed, kicking back, using counters, changing levels. I was like, damn, he's got some more wrinkles to his game, to where I'm like, if him and Andre get in there, I'm like, yeah, I don't know now. You know what I mean? I'm like, this dude, he's showing he can do more than just one thing. But I've never said that. I got to say this about the Charlos, always have. They always got stamina from round 1 to round 12. They're always dangerous. They're always in shape. They both got good chins. And but I just seen a lot of new wrinkles in Jamal's game. So shout out to both of them, man. You know what I mean? I know a lot of people like to hate on them. I used to be one of them. But
yeah, me too. Me too.
I call it like I see it, man. And if I see it, then I'm like, hey, man. Hey, it's good. Good for them. Shout out to them.
Yeah, I was, basically the same way, leading up to those fights. And, but my thing was I kind of like favored Jamal a lot more. I just felt like he did have, the goods. It was just that he didn't have the, defining fight at middleweight yet, so him going up against Derevyanchenko and, pulling off the performance that he pulled off, given what Derevyanchenko has, done against the likes of Daniel Jacobs and against Gennady Golovkin, that makes a statement there, where he's at his middleweight, so I feel like that's going to be, very good for him. I just have to see like how that reflects off of him, later on down the line. I think that he's going to have another, I guess an interim fight. He might go ahead and face Eubank Jr. Actually next. But
that's not a bad fight.
Yeah, that's not a bad fight. Hopefully, that gets good enough interest, from the US and UK as well. So that's something good. I think what was it? Lawrence Williams said, like in reference to the Zepeda fight, it was like Zepeda is a big puncher. That's why Ramirez was so tentative in their fight. Yeah, they, that was a good little scrap there between Jose, Ramirez there and and Zepeda, man, because that one, Ramirez had to be a little bit, tentative there in that particular matchup. And, that was a good fight where Ramirez got the majority decision. Like one judge had it as a draw, and another one had it like 7 rounds to 5 for Ramirez. So it was a good little back and forth battle between those two guys there in that fight, So it was just that, I guess people didn't know that Zepeda like had that, toughness in him. That after he gets this in the first round, he was able to get his bearings back and, get back into the fight.
Yep. And we've been seeing a lot of that from fighters. I think Teofimo showed that. When there was moments where Lomachenko was getting off on him, he was like, no, you got to pay for that. On the way out, he'd catch him with like a right hand, or a left hook. And then just when you thought it could be, I was like, oh, man, I was a little worried in the 11th. But he showed in the 12th what he was about. He was like, no. The fight ain't over. And even though his dad told him to box, he said, I'm taking this.
No, I'm taking this. Yeah, exactly.
I ain't gonna leave it up to the judges. And even and I'm gonna be honest. I'm a conspiracy theorist to a limit. I was like, when they stopped the action at 10 seconds left, I was like, the bookies are like, nah. They're like, because it all hit me. I think Sporting Advantage brought it up to me. I think we might have been on Black Horseman's live. He said, does the round it gets stopped in count? And I was like, oh shit. I think the bookies were like, yo, cut this shit now. And that would have changed scorecards, but it didn't matter.
No, it didn't. It didn't really. It didn't really like matter in the sense of, at least at that particular point in the fight. It would have taken, something for, I guess, maybe Lomachenko to do something to kind of get a stoppage. But there was like so much money towards Lomachenko leading to, when the fight card started, that the odds for a Lomachenko decision were basically counterproductive. It was minus 115.
Right.
So it's like, goodness, like you wouldn't be able to get nothing off that. While on the flip, you had, the thing for Teofimo Lopez, as far as like straight up, KO or DQ, it was like 11-2, but they felt like it was more likely that Lopez would get a KO than get a decision. And so when the decision came through, and that was a very good payout. That was a very good payout.
Yeah, you know what? It was just the win alone was 3-1 in Lopez's favor. So I was like, I'll take the win. And in case they try to rob me, if he does pull it off, I'll take the draw, which is 22-1. So I got the W. I didn't really want it to go, even though I would have made more money. I didn't want it to go to where it looked like it was going to be a draw, because I'm like, then they'll probably give it to Lomachenko. Man, was that wrong, But just to cover my ass, I was like, I'll take the draw. But it played in my favor. I did pretty well. And everybody in my household was excited, so it was good for boxing, man. But Joe, I tell you what, I gotta make some moves. But if I see you on, man, I'll try to hop on your lives whenever you're doing your thing, Boxer Source. And thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it, bro.
Oh, not a problem. Yeah, I just try to do the simulcast with the podcast on Sundays, and then try to do something on Wednesdays. 7:30 p.m. Eastern time for like a midweek report or whatnot. But other than that, once I do, have the lives, I'll post it out or just keep the things on the notifications where when I come on, you'll be able to know.
Oh no, you on notifications. So I mean, I see that, but if I'll see you more now, though. You know what I'm saying? The bell icon has been hit, so
out no doubt. Yeah,
I'll pick you up too, bro.
Yeah, and for those listening right now, y'all subscribe to 1-2 Kid, man. Shout out your channel out there.
Oh, thank you, thank you. I didn't even know you had a podcast. What's your podcast name?
It's just the Boxing Source radio show. So I mean, that's basically what I was doing, before I even jumped on YouTube. So I've been,
Okay.
On the podcast tip for years. It's just that,
I had
I
no
added
idea.
YouTube to it.
Well, now I know.
So
Now I know, man. You seem like an awfully cool dude. You seem like a true boxing fan. So, you know what I mean? If you guys are just listening in for the playback gang, subscribe to this guy, man. He knows his stuff. Have a good one, man. Enjoy.
all right, you too, brother. You too.
Yeah, no problem, man. Later.
Later. Yeah, man. So it's just out here chopping it up. It's almost about 3 hours in for this particular live here on YouTube, and just wanted to cover the last few things. Of course, you had the thing with Edgar Berlanga, having his first round knockout or first round, basically a stoppage there. So if that was against Linnell Bellows, and he was like, hey, I had this whole thing going, first round knockout. You heard what he said. I'm a fucking monster, but he still, had to do the push-up. So Coach Andre Rozier said that you had to, follow up that jab with the, right, and then step over and do the left hook. And he didn't do that because he said, like, I saw that this guy was ready to go, that he didn't really want to be in the ring. So he just wanted to get him out of there as quickly as possible. He didn't want to get in rounds. He just wanted to, get Linnell Bellows out of there. So that was his story there. You could, catch that as part of that, post-fight press conference through Top Rank, or for that particular clip that's on my channel. It's, I was able to ask that question. So be sure to check that out. And like I said, you had the co-feature out there with, Barbosa, and Barbosa, and, he, I feel like that was like kind of a, performance in that particular instance where, I thought that was a, pretty good back and forth fight. There, good tactical bout. You had the instance where they almost didn't count the, that knockdown, but instant replay, had that on there. So that was, very key in that particular bout. So I feel like, hey, that also was a good little scrap. I think that, it was, what I would say, I would say a little bit better than, expected there. So that was kind of like a good little scrap that they had in that particular bout. So that's pretty much, what I got here. It's been about 3 hours, so I'm going to, close this thing here. I'll catch y'all, I guess, around Wednesday or something like that, maybe. So have a midweek report of sorts. So be sure to catch that here on Wednesday. But until then, I'm out, y'all. Peace.